Chapter 847. Xiao Yihan's ears turned red, and he said shyly, "Will it be too much trouble for Sister Chen?" It was rare to see a boy blushing in this day and age. It was obvious that he was an innocent child. Chen Tingfang smiled even more kindly. No, I have a hobby, and that is to be a matchmaker." Lin Tai couldn't help but tease her. "When did you have this hobby? How come I didn't know about it?" Chen Tingfang said calmly, "Who asked Yihan to be so outstanding? He makes people want to introduce him to a girlfriend, so that he can be happy." This sentence moved Xiao Yihan, and he looked at Chen Tingfang with a different gaze. It was deep and passionate, with a hint of attachment. However, other than Chen Tingfang, no one else noticed it. Chen Tingfang felt a little guilty, but she quickly felt relieved. Zissou was such an outstanding girl, and Xiao Yihan wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Lin Tai suddenly said, "Ji Tai, don't tell me you want to introduce your daughter to Yihan? But I remember that your daughter already has a fiancé." Chen Tingfang hurriedly said, "Of course not, Lin Tai. You're thinking too much." Lin Tai smiled faintly, as if telling her with his eyes, "I've already seen through your thoughts." Chen Tingfang was unhappy, but because Xiao Yihan was present, she couldn't say anything. The atmosphere was a little awkward, and Xiao Yihan helped her out by saying, "Sisters, it's fate that we met. Can you give Yihan some face and treat us to a cup of coffee?" Li Yazi had long been interested in this handsome guy. She elegantly stroked the hair by her ear, and threw him an ambiguous look. "We're a little tired, so we'll get a cup of coffee from Yihan and take a break." Xiao Yihan ignored her gaze and smiled warmly and politely. He stretched out his arm like a gentleman and said, "Please, sisters." In the cafe, Chen Tingfang asked about Xiao Yihan's family background. She found out that his family was in the clothing business, and had several factories in Europe and hundreds of clothing stores. She also found out that he was his only son and would definitely inherit the family business in the future. In addition, he was handsome and had a good conversational style, so he was the best candidate to be a son-in-law. Chen Tingfang was even more determined to take him in as a son-in-law. After leaving the cafe, everyone said goodbye to each other and walked to their parking spaces. Xiao Yihan accompanied Chen Tingfang. They were already very familiar with each other, and their conversations were intimate. Chen Tingfang turned her head sideways and spoke to Xiao Yihan. She didn't notice that a man in a colorful shirt was rushing toward her at an extremely fast speed. Xiao Yihan's expression changed, and he anxiously said, "Be careful." Before he could finish his sentence, he quickly pulled her into his arms and quickly dodged. In a flash, the man in the colorful shirt had already snatched Chen Tingfang's handbag and ran in the opposite direction. Xiao Yihan didn't have time to care about the handbag that was snatched away. He anxiously asked the person in his arms, "Sister Chen, are you okay?" At the same time, a vigorous figure appeared out of nowhere and kicked an empty can on the ground toward the robber's right leg. The robber was caught off guard and fell to one knee with a thud. The bag that he snatched also fell to the ground. The robber knew that he had met an expert and didn't dare to pick up the bag again. He hurriedly got up and ran as fast as he could. Chen Tingfang saw Xie Bing appear and snatched her handbag back. She heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at Xiao Yihan. "I'm fine. Thank you. If it wasn't for you just now, I would definitely have been knocked to the ground by the robber." The robber rushed toward her at an extremely fast speed. If Xiao Yihan hadn't pulled her back in a moment of desperation, she would definitely have been injured. A smile finally appeared on Xiao Yihan's handsome face. "It's good that you're okay. It was really dangerous just now. I didn't do anything. Thank you to that gentleman for taking Sister Chen's handbag back." "Madam, your handbag." At this time, Xie Bing had already returned with her handbag. Chen Tingfang reached out to take it. Only then did she realize that she was still in Xiao Yihan's arms. She blushed. Xiao Yihan also realized that his behavior was inappropriate at this time. He hurriedly let go of her and took 2 steps to the side. His fair cheeks were stained with a faint blush. Chen Tingfang glanced at him from the corner of her eye. She saw that he was obviously uncomfortable, but pretended to be calm and composed. She couldn't help but find it funny. He was indeed a pure and innocent man. She took the handbag from Xie Bing and nodded slightly. "Xie Bing, thank you for your hard work." Xie Bing nodded and didn't say anything. He expressionlessly retreated to the side of the car, opened the door, and waited quietly. Chen Tingfang looked at Xiao Yihan with a smile. Yihan, thank you for today. Whether it was the coffee or the matter just now, I'll treat you to a meal next time when you have time. Okay, then it's a promise. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Xiao Yihan was a gentleman. He was really suave and handsome. Today was really a day of constant turmoil. After Chen Tingfang got into the car, she felt unusually tired. She leaned against the seat and closed her eyes to rest. The car moved forward steadily. After an unknown period of time, Chen Tingfang suddenly felt a strong vibration. Her body suddenly swayed and she opened her eyes in shock. She heard Xie Bing's deep voice. Madam, sit tight. Chen Tingfang's heart trembled. As long as she heard those words, she knew that something had happened. Sure enough, before she could think further, she saw a small truck in front of them at an extremely fast speed. On the other side was a mountain wall. If they were careless, they would hit it. No, not only that, behind their car, there was also a van that was desperately rushing toward their car. Surrounded by danger, there was almost no possibility of dodging the pincer attack. Chen Tingfang instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Her hands tightly grasped the seatbelt. She was so scared that her heart almost stopped beating. Cold sweat broke out on Xie Bing's forehead. He stared coldly in front of him. His body was stiff. His hands fiercely turned the steering wheel. The back of the car swung in a beautiful arc and narrowly avoided the car in front of them. The car's headlights grazed the tree trunk on the side of the road, making an ear-piercing sound. Seeing that they were getting closer to the mountain wall, Chen Tingfang closed her eyes in fear and trembled all over. The car did not hit the mountain wall. Xie Bing made an emergency turn and stepped on the accelerator. The car roared and drove straight ahead. Because the small truck was too fast, it hit the oncoming van. A loud bang reverberated through the quiet mountain path. Although they were already far away from the accident, Chen Tingfang was still in shock. Her face was pale and her heart was filled with hatred. Su Yanqing, you be*tch. How dare you plot against me like this? I will never let you off. It was not a good idea to be passive and hide. Su Yanqing's methods were hard to guard against. She could be killed by the other party at any time. She had to take the initiative to attack. What was so great about the Black Flame sect? She would make them disappear completely. After thinking about it again and again, Chen Tingfang gave up the idea of asking her cousin for help. She hired a private investigator to find out some information about Su Yanqing. Su Yanqing, Miss of the Black Flame sect. She was 30 years old and unmarried. She used to have a fixed boyfriend, Yi Zhaoxian, but he disappeared. In fact, she killed him. Her love life was unknown at this stage. She was ruthless, arrogant and domineering, but she loved her younger brother very much. Since Suzhou was imprisoned, she focused all her energy on the affairs of the Black Flame sect. She was basically a workaholic. It was not easy to find her flaws. Chen Tingfang had a headache. One day, she suddenly understood. Why did she have to fight with Su Yanqing? She wanted to drag Ji Yuqi into the mess and let the 2B*cheese fight. She slammed the table and applauded her plan. Her blood boiled as she thought about how to negotiate with Su Yanqing. In the afternoon, in a quiet tea restaurant, a noblewoman was sitting leisurely by the window. Her eyebrows were delicate, and there was a faint smile on her beautiful face. She was looking at the woman sitting across from her. The woman opposite her was wearing black trousers and a white shirt. Her long hair was tied up in a bun. Her facial features were beautiful, but it was a pity that she was a little cold. She looked like a serious high-level manager. She did not look like the daughter of a terrifying underground organization. Su Yanqing's slender fingers gently stirred the coffee. She raised her dark eyes slightly and stared coldly at Chen Tingfang. Negotiate? What a joke. What right do you have to negotiate with me? Chen Tingfang's smile was still perfect. She said indifferently, Miss Su, oh no, I should call you Master Su now. I know you're trying to deal with me. In order to save my life, I'll negotiate with you. Of course it's worth it. Su Yanqing sneered and said coldly, You're the only one who's still alive after stealing my man. Tell me, if I'm not satisfied with your trump card, I'll crush you with 2 fingers at any time. Chen Tingfang hated Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan the most in her life. Secondly, she hated people who looked down on her. Su Yanqing's contemptuous tone provoked her. She was so angry that her eyes were burning. She clenched her fists tightly and gritted her teeth. She restrained herself from saying something irreversible in a moment of anger. After suppressing her anger for a long time, she finally calmed down. She laughed coldly and said, "I thought that miss from the underground organization was very impressive, but it turns out that you're just SSO. Don't you love your brother very much? Then do you know why he targeted Ji Yunhan twice, but Ji Yunhan escaped twice? In the end, he was sent to prison because of a gang fight?" Su Yanqing's sharp gaze pierced Chen Tingfang like a knife. The ruthlessness in her eyes made people tremble uncontrollably. She said coldly, "I thought that the culprit was sitting opposite me. If he wasn't used by you, why would Aja target Ji Yunhan and end up in such a state?" Chen Tingfang's cold and arrogant tone was slightly restrained. "I admit that I'm partly responsible for this matter, but the most direct cause is not me. Suja tried to deal with Ji Yunhan twice, but both times he was able to escape. Instead, Suja got himself into trouble. It wasn't because Ji Yunhan was lucky, but because someone was helping him." Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 848. Su Yanqing wasn't a fool. She had considered this possibility before, but she hadn't been able to find the culprit. Hence, she had chosen to deal with Yi Zhaoxian and Chen Tingfang. If it wasn't for them, Suja wouldn't have gone to find trouble with Ji Yunhan. However, if she could find the culprit, she would be more than happy to do so. Chen Tingfang saw a flicker in her eyes and paused on purpose. Su Yanqing raised her eyebrows impatiently. "Continue." Chen Tingfang smiled. "Ji Yuqi is the real culprit. She is just like you, she loves her younger brother the most. Of course, she wouldn't watch Suja bully her younger brother. If I'm not wrong, the evidence of Suja's crimes was also sent to the police by Ji Yuqi." In fact, Chen Tingfang was just making things up. She wanted to direct Su Yanqing's hatred towards Ji Yuqi. However, she had hit the nail on the head. Su Yanqing's eyes narrowed. She tapped her fingers on the table and said calmly, "I don't need wild guesses. What evidence do you have to convince me?" Chen Tingfang smiled. Fortunately, she was prepared. She placed a stack of photos on the table. "Previously, I wanted to deal with Ji Yuqi, so I hired a private investigator to follow her. Here, these are the photos the private investigator gave me." Su Yanqing glanced at her and picked up the photos. She flipped through them carefully. There wasn't anything special about the photos. Most of the photos were of Ji Yuqi being intimate with a man. The most important thing was that the man's face was either from the side or from the back. Not a single photo showed his face. Su Yanqing threw the photos on the table and glared at her unhappily. She said coldly, "What can these photos prove? At most, it proves that Ji Yuqi is dating a man." Chen Tingfang wasn't angry. She took out a photo and passed it to her. "Look at this photo. Doesn't the name of the bar look familiar?" Su Yanqing glanced at the photo. Indeed, it was Nightfall Bar. This was the place where Suja had plotted against Ji Yunhan. If Ji Yuqi frequented Nightfall Bar with another man, then she would have noticed that Ji Yunhan was in trouble. This would explain why she was able to save Ji Yunhan in time every time. Under Chen Tingfang's guidance, Su Yanqing had started to think that Ji Yuqi was the culprit behind the scenes. Chen Tingfang, who was good at reading people's expressions, naturally noticed the change in Su Yanqing's expression. She curled her lips in satisfaction. These so-called photos were all made by her. They were not the most straightforward evidence, but they could prove that Ji Yuqi did have the motive and opportunity to commit the crime. As for the rest, she would let Su Yanqing, this paranoid woman, fill in the blanks. Oh, she really admired her own intelligence. Su Yanqing rolled her eyes and several thoughts flashed through her mind. She threw the photos away and leaned back. She raised her chin arrogantly and said coldly, "Tell me, what are your plans?" Chen Tingfang brushed her hair behind her ear and smiled elegantly. "My request is very simple. We will mind our own business. Of course, as compensation, I will tell you Ji Yuqi's whereabouts. You can take revenge however you want. What do you think?" Su Yanqing raised her willowy eyebrows and her lips curved into a strange smile. This is a good deal. However, before we reach an agreement, I want to collect some interest. Chen Tingfang felt uneasy. She raised her guard. What else do you want? Su Yanqing snapped her fingers. Before Chen Tingfang could react, she felt a sharp pain in the back of her head. She lost control of herself and fell towards the table. A few seconds before she lost consciousness, she heard Su Yanqing's cold voice. Since you like men so much, I'll give you a few more. The man standing behind Chen Tingfang picked her up the moment she fell, just like a lover. He didn't arouse anyone's suspicion at all. He just carried her like this and quickly walked out of the restaurant. On the street, Xie Bing, who was waiting in his car, suddenly saw a man and a woman coming out of the door. The man was carrying Chen Tingfang and the woman was Su Yanqing. They quickly walked towards their car. Xie Bing punched the steering wheel and cursed under his breath. He waited for the car to drive a distance away before he quietly followed. Because the other party was a member of the underground organization, they were very vigilant. Xie Bing did not dare to follow too closely. However, after following them for a few streets, they just happened to encounter a red light. He could only watch as their car disappeared into the traffic. When Chen Tingfang woke up, she was already in the hotel. She was surrounded by 5 or 6 white and fat bodies. Those people had a vulgar look on their faces as they stretched out their claws on her body. Her clothes had long been torn to pieces, and her white skin was left with bruises. Even if she was cruel and merciless, she was still a woman. This was the first time she encountered such a thing, and she was so scared that she almost cried. She bit like a madwoman and kept kicking the men who were close to her. The man who was closest to her was kicked in the groin and cried out in pain. When the others saw this, they became even more ferocious and wanted to kill her. Just when they suppressed her and were about to use force, the door was kicked open. A black shadow with cold anger quickly came in. Bang! 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 The men on top of her were kicked to the ground. They were lying on the ground in a mess. Their mouths were screaming in pain. Blood and broken teeth were left on the ground. Xie Bing stepped on the back of the hand of the man closest to him. There was a cracking sound. It should be the broken finger. He was expressionless. He quickly took off his coat and threw it to Chen Tingfang. Hurry up, we can't stay here for long. Xie Bing? Chen Tingfang could not calm down. She suddenly threw herself into his arms and cried without caring about her image. The woman in his arms was almost naked as she threw herself into his arms. He could clearly feel her full pink body. His brows were tightly knitted as he stiffly stretched out his hand to push her away. Suddenly he heard a burst of chaotic footsteps. His heart trembled as he quickly picked her up and rushed to the door. At the end of the corridor, a group of gangsters rushed over. Chen Tingfang was so scared that she buried her head in his arms and did not dare to move. Xie Bing took out a few darts from somewhere and quickly threw them at the pursuers. At the same time, he held the woman in his arms and quickly fled. After running out of the hotel, the group of people did not dare to chase after them. Xie Bing had already thrown Chen Tingfang into the car and stepped on the gas pedal. The car was like an arrow leaving the bow as it sped out. Chen Tingfang was in a mess. She was only wrapped in Xie Bing's coat. She shrank in the corner of the back seat and trembled in shock. Xie Bing glanced at her in the rearview mirror and said nothing. He was scared. Fortunately, he put a tracker in her coat pocket just in case, so he could track her position. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. After some time, he suddenly stopped the car and ran to a roadside shop. He bought a set of women's clothes and put it on the back seat. Put it on first. I'll smoke outside. Then he leaned against the car door, lit a cigarette, and started to smoke slowly. Chen Tingfang looked around. This was a quiet area with few people. She quickly threw away the coat and put on the dress Xie Bing bought. Although the style was ordinary and the material was not very good, she did not expect it to fit quite well. Xie Bing finished smoking and guessed that she should have changed her clothes. He got into the car again, and the two of them returned to the Ji family's house in silence. Perhaps it was because of the shock. Chen Tingfang fell sick that night. Coincidentally, she used the excuse of catching a cold to sleep in the guest room. Otherwise, Ji Bowen would definitely cause a huge uproar if he saw the marks on her body. The next morning at breakfast, her face was pale and she still looked very haggard. Ji Bowen thought that she had been too tired recently, so he told her to rest well, and then went to the company. Yi Zissou acted coquettishly by her side to cheer her up. She even cooked porridge for her. Chen Tingfang felt that she had suffered so much so that her daughter could live a good life in the future. Fortunately, her daughter was filial. She was very gratified. She looked at Ji Yuqi and her brother. The two of them were saying words of concern, but they were probably very happy and wanted her to die. Humph, she would not do as they wished. She wanted to live well, and see how they would be defeated in the future. Ji Yuqi and her brother were secretly happy. Although they did not know what had happened to Chen Tingfang, they were sure that she had been taught a lesson by Su Yanqing. Otherwise she would not be so haggard. However, they did not know that danger would soon befall them. Su Yanqing did not completely believe Chen Tingfang's words. After Xie Bing rescued her, Su Yanqing decided to let Chen Tingfang off temporarily. She wanted to find out if Ji Yuqi was the one behind this. She went to the prison where Su Zhe was serving his sentence. She found out from Su Zhe that he had recorded a video of a mysterious person rescuing Ji Yunhan. He also said that on the night of his arrest, he had met a very ugly street girl. Su Yanqing was very interested in these two things. After returning home, Su Yanqing immediately checked the video. After careful observation and comparison, she finally confirmed that the person with the jacket wrapped around her head in the video was Ji Yuqi. The two of them looked very similar. In other words, they were exactly the same. Ji Yuqi, so you are the mastermind behind this. Su Yanqing's deep eyes emitted a murderous aura that made people shudder. This year, Capital University's graduation ceremony was very grand. Not only did they invite the city's main leaders, they also invited dozens of prestigious alumni from all walks of life. Even people from the television station would be there to do a live broadcast. According to the procedure, the leaders would first give a speech, then the graduation certificate would be awarded to the outstanding graduates. After that, there would be a graduation performance. However, it was not only the graduates who would be performing, but also the students from other grades. It was an honor that Ji Yuqi was the representative of the students in charge of the university. Her performance was arranged to be the second last performance, as the finale. Ad. Hongchai 866. Chapter 849. She was just an ordinary rich girl. Capital University didn't lack rich girls. Why did such a good thing like stealing the limelight fall on her? The answer was Gu Fifan. That guy used his connections with the school leaders to put Ji Yuqi in the performance team. Ji Yuqi was under a lot of pressure. She did not want to be the center of attention at all, and become the object of envy and jealousy of all the rich girls. However, what was done could not be undone. She could only obey the arrangements of the leaders and prepare actively. In June, the graduation ceremony was held in the auditorium. Ji Yuqi and Lin Yuxi sat together. They chose to sit in the aisle on the right, so that it would be convenient for them to go backstage to prepare for the performance. As soon as the two of them sat down, Ji Yuqi suddenly saw another person on the empty seat on her left. She did not care and continued to chat with Lin Yuxi in a low voice until the person greeted them. She was a little surprised. She turned around and smiled. Brother Tang Feng. That's right. The person sitting on her left was Tang Feng. He was dressed in a formal suit and looked handsome and extraordinary. He had a gentle smile on his face and his voice was low and pleasant. Yuqi, you look very beautiful today. Ji Yuqi replied politely, thank you. You look very handsome too. Tang Feng raised his eyebrows. Although it was just a casual conversation, he was very happy. He handed her a bottle of drink. Your favorite grapefruit honey tea. Ji Yuqi was stunned. She wanted to refuse, but felt that it was too much. She reached out and took it. She smiled. Thank you. Tang Feng rubbed her hair lovingly just like when they were young. He whispered, you're still as silly as when you were young. Ji Yuqi's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She really wanted to say something to ease the awkwardness, but her lips quivered a few times. In the end, she didn't say anything. The memories of the past were like a brand, deeply engraved in her mind. It wasn't easy to forget them. The girl in front of him looked a little dazed. Tang Feng's smile became gentler. It seemed that Yuqi was not as heartless as she said. He believed that he still had a chance. He took out another bottle of drink and handed it to Lin Yushi, who was sitting to the right of Yuqi. He said politely, "Yushi, I don't know what you like, so I bought the same drink as Yuqi." Lin Yushi glanced at Tang Feng and took the drink expressionlessly. She said, "Thank you." At this time, Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zixu were seated not far away from them. Tianhao, don't you think so? Yi Zixu did not get a response. She found that Jiang Tianhao's attention was not on her at all. She followed his gaze and saw Ji Yuqi sitting elegantly. Yi Zixu did not hide the hatred in her eyes. "Ji Yuqi, you have already gotten everything you want. Why are you still fighting with me?" The music started. The host walked onto the stage. The graduation ceremony had begun. An hour later, the leaders finished their speeches. Finally, it was the graduate representatives' turn to go on stage. Ji Yuqi's mouth twitched when she saw Gu Fifan walk onto the stage first. Although Gu Fifan was famous in school, it was only limited to his reputation as a playboy. Was it really okay for him to accept the mayor's award as the outstanding student representative? But the nymphomaniacs present obviously did not think so. Thunderous applause and waves of cheers came from below the stage. Ji Yuqi vaguely heard some people shouting, "Prince Fifan, I love you." Then several other student representatives went on stage to accept the awards from the leaders. When Jiang Tianhao saw this scene, he could not control his anger. Originally, the reputation belonged to him. But the scandal that had caused a lot of commotion had caused him to be hated by the leaders. The once outstanding student had turned into a black sheep. The leaders wished they could hide him. How could they praise him in public? A soft little hand suddenly grasped his hand. Yi Zixu's soft voice entered his ear. "Tianhao, you are the most outstanding." Jiang Tianhao's body stiffened. A strong sense of disgust grew in his heart. If it were not for her, how could he have fallen into this state? She actually had the nerve to comfort him with a high and mighty attitude. How laughable! Although he was disgusted in his heart, he did not show it on his face. He held her hand and slowly smiled. "Zixu, having you by my side is the luckiest thing that has ever happened to me." Yi Zixu looked at him, touched. Her beautiful eyes were covered with mist. Jiang Tianhao looked at her affectionately. His smile was gentle. Amidst the thunderous applause, Gu Fifan gave a speech on behalf of the graduates. He swept away his previous unruly attitude and stood tall on the stage. His white suit accentuated his perfect figure. His face was as bright as the moon under the lights. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes were filled with a faint smile. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he talked cheerfully and wittily. It was amazing. Various media outlets quickly pressed their shutters and recorded his heroic appearance. It was conceivable that after tomorrow, he would become the darling of Ying City's upper class. The leaders of the school also sighed in their hearts. It turned out that the young master of the Gu family was not a good-for-nothing. He was quick-witted and had an extraordinary temperament. He would definitely achieve great things in the future. Ji Yuqi already knew that he had hidden his talents. Seeing his stunning performance, she was not surprised at all. She only smiled slightly. As if they had telepathy, Gu Fifan, who was on the stage, actually met her gaze. He raised his eyebrows slightly at her. It was obvious that he was teasing her. Ji Yuqi was angry and amused at the same time. He did not know how to restrain himself in front of so many people. He was really reckless. After the award ceremony, the talent show began. Ji Yuqi had to go backstage to prepare for her performance. She politely bid farewell to Tang Feng. Tang Feng held her wrist. "Yuqi, I'll go with you." "It's okay. There are many people backstage. It's not convenient for you to go." Ji Yuqi said it more tactfully. In fact, she wanted to say that there were so many girls backstage. It would be inconvenient for a man to go. Tang Feng also thought of that. He let go of her wrist and smiled gently. "All right then. If there's anything, call me immediately." Ji Yuqi smiled and agreed. There were indeed many people backstage. They were busy putting on their makeup and changing their clothes. A group of ballet dancers were warming up in the corridor. There were also staff members helping to move the musical instruments. It was bustling with activity. Ji Yuqi's performance was at the end. Now that no one was paying attention to her in the dressing room, she decided to find a quiet place to get some fresh air. After walking around, she found that the washroom was the quietest. After washing her hands, she looked at herself in the mirror and could not help but chuckle. In her previous life, her reputation was terrible. She was not qualified to show her face at such a grand ceremony. It was her first time performing in public. She had to work harder. She could not let others see her as a joke. Yuqi. A deep and familiar male voice came from above her head. Ji Yuqi could not help but sigh. A place like the washroom was indeed a place where melodramatic scenes happened frequently. She looked up and smiled. Senior, why are you here? What's the matter? Jiang Tianhao was like a jade orchid tree. Even though he was standing at the door of the washroom, he still looked charming. His smile was gentle. Yuqi, I'm here to see you. I've been hired by Dongfang Real Estate. Yuqi, thank you. Ji Yuqi looked surprised. Really? Congratulations, Senior. You were hired because of your outstanding ability. Senior, I'm very happy for you. If Zissou knows about this, she'll be very happy too. Jiang Tianhao's smile became gentler. Yuqi, you're the kindest girl I've ever met. He raised his hand and stroked the hair by her ear. Ji Yuqi's face was faintly red. She looked down shyly to hide the sarcastic coldness in her eyes. Kind-hearted? Ha, this word had long been cut off from her. When the two of them with outstanding looks stood together, it was really a beautiful picture. They were affectionate. Even if they did not speak, one could feel the affection between them. Yi Zissou, who was hiding in the corner, gritted her teeth in hatred. Her beautiful face was distorted with anger. She knew that Jiang Tianhao had used the washroom as an excuse to meet that B*TCH Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi, why doesn't she just die? Yi Zissou's eyes suddenly flashed, and a vicious thought gradually formed in her mind. Ji Yuqi sent Jiang Tianhao away and returned to the dressing room. There weren't many people left. The makeup artist, Linda, looked at Ji Yuqi's face. Ji Yuqi's skin was very good, and it was easy to apply makeup. She finished her makeup and hairstyle in just over 10 minutes. Ji Yuqi looked at herself in the mirror with satisfaction. She smiled and said, "It's pretty good. Sister Linda, thank you." Linda had done a lot of makeup for many rich girls today, but no one had ever thanked her. She immediately had a good impression of Ji Yuqi, and her smile became more sincere. "Miss Ji, the costume is ready. Please change in the dressing room." "Okay, thank you." Ji Yuqi went to the dressing room to get her clothes. When she saw her performance costume, she was stunned. Linda saw her in a daze and walked up to her with concern. "What's wrong? Oh my God, who did this?" This was a white lace evening gown with a lace shawl and a small trailing tail. After wearing it, one would be as beautiful as Snow White. But now, the lace trailing tail had several holes, and the skirt was torn. The original princess dress had become a beggar's dress. Linda was very angry. She called her assistant over. "Little Wang, how did you do your job? How did this gown become like this?" Little Wang was scared out of her wits. It was still fine when I brought it here. I don't know what happened either." Linda frowned and was about to fly into a rage when Ji Yuqi hurriedly stopped her. "Sister Linda, the most important thing now is to solve the problem of the costume." Linda frowned. "What should we do? There are only 20 minutes left before it's your turn. The other gowns have already been worn. If you wear them on stage, you'll be laughed at. But where can we find a new one?" Little Wang was so anxious that she cried. "Yes, what should we do? There are many TV reporters outside. If we can't handle them, we'll be a laughing stock and tarnish the school's reputation. Miss G, it's all my fault. I was too careless and didn't take good care of the gown. Ad. Xinwu 799. Chapter 850. Little Wang, Sister Linda, we can't panic. I believe that things haven't reached the point of despair yet." Ji Yuqi picked up the ruined dress and gestured a few times. Suddenly, an idea popped up in her mind. She gritted her teeth and her beautiful eyes were firm. She said in a deep voice, "Little Wang, help me get a pair of scissors." "Oh." Little Wang hurriedly found a pair of scissors. Miss G, what are you planning to do? Linda vaguely knew what she was planning to do, but she wasn't sure. Ji Yuqi didn't answer. She clenched her teeth, her gaze calm. Holding the scissors in her hand, she found the right spot and cut a hole in the long dress without hesitation. Then she suddenly pulled along the hole. There was a tearing sound, and the sound of fabric being torn attracted everyone in the dressing room. Next, let's welcome Miss Ji Yuqi, who is in charge of the hospital. She will be singing a very nice song, Invisible Wings. The host's sweet voice traveled to the backstage. Linda was sweating profusely as she made the final preparations for Ji Yuqi. Her fingers were trembling. Ji Yuqi didn't panic. With a calm smile on her face, she comforted her not to be nervous. Suddenly, the director's voice came from the door. "Oh, my ancestor, hurry up. The host is about to cry. Coming. Yuqi, do your best. You can do it." Linda finished the last step and patted Ji Yuqi's shoulder hard. Ji Yuqi smiled and walked confidently and elegantly. As the host announced the second time, she slowly walked behind the curtain. All the lights suddenly went out and the noisy auditorium suddenly quieted down. Tang Feng stared at the direction of the stage. His Yuqi was about to appear. A light and pleasant melody sounded, and a voice like the sound of nature broke the silence. It was like the light of dawn cutting through the darkness and shining on the world. Every time, I'm strong in loneliness. Every time, even if I'm hurt, I won't shed tears. A beam of dazzling light suddenly shone on the center of the stage. In the darkness, a white figure slowly floated down from the sky. All the light enveloped her, and everyone's eyes revolved around her. She walked down from the swing. She was wearing a white spaghetti strap skirt that barely covered her legs. The hemline of the skirt was irregular, like the swaying edge of a lotus leaf, adding to her ethereal aura. The design at her waist was the most distinctive. There were 2 symmetrical slits on the left and right, revealing the creamy skin of her waist. Her whole person immediately became enchanting and charming. Coupled with the cold and elegant makeup on her face, she was like a fire rose blooming in the dark night, a beautiful siren under the moonlight. She was obviously charming to the bone, but it also made people feel that she had a cold and arrogant aura. It was a kind of beauty that was contradictory to the bones. I've finally seen all my dreams blossom. How bright the singing of the young people chasing after me is. I can finally soar with my heart and not be afraid. Wherever there is wind, I will fly as far as I can. Invisible wings make dreams longer than the sky. Leave a wish for your imagination. Her voice was very pleasant, with an innate coldness, but her emotions were hot and vigorous. It infected everyone, and they couldn't help but think of their forgotten dreams. She stood in the center of the stage, standing sideways, and focused on the direction of the door. It was as if she saw herself flying, and her delicate lips curved into a faint smile. No one knew what Ji Yuqi was looking at. In fact, she was looking at the man standing at the door. The man was tall and straight, and he was like a high and mighty king, with an aura of disdain for the world. Although she was too far away and couldn't see the expression on his face, she knew that Shinja was also staring at her at the moment. The smile on her lips deepened. When the song ended, the applause was like a tide. Tang Feng's deep eyes were full of pride and love. His Yuqi was indeed the best. Jiang Tianhao's infatuated gaze followed Ji Yuqi until her graceful figure disappeared under the lights. Yi Zis's long nails dug into the seat. She was so angry that she was about to vomit blood. She didn't expect Ji Yuqi to be so powerful. She tore her costume, but she could still turn it into a treasure. She even made it even hotter and more eye-catching. She was really lucky. Yi Zisu only thought that it was the work of the makeup artist and stylist. She didn't know that Ji Yuqi had used her design skills to change the dress into its current appearance. The Shen family started out by manufacturing clothes. They could be said to be the leaders of the clothing industry, and they had launched many well-known brands. Although Ji Yuqi majored in business administration, she was actually very interested in fashion design. She was also very talented. After her rebirth, she paid more attention to cultivating her talent in this area. After all, she was going to take over the G group in the future. She couldn't be completely ignorant about fashion design. And this time, Her talent helped her get through the difficulties. After returning backstage, Ji Yuqi let out a long sigh of relief. She smiled brightly at Linda and little Wang, who had been waiting behind the scenes. Then she hugged them tightly and sincerely expressed her gratitude. Linda's eyes were glistening with tears. She said excitedly, "I didn't expect you to have such talent. When you become a famous fashion designer one day, don't forget to design a few clothes for me." Ji Yuqi blinked. "No problem. I can forget anyone but my benefactor Linda." If Linda hadn't helped her redo her makeup and style in such a short time, she definitely wouldn't have achieved such a good effect. Me too. I want one too," little Wang interrupted unwillingly. Okay. You also have a share. Little Wang is also a great contributor. The three of them returned to the dressing room happily. After changing her clothes and removing her makeup, the graduation ceremony was also over. Ji Yuqi and Linda appreciated each other. They exchanged contact information and made an appointment to have a meal together in the future. Then they parted ways. Ji Yuqi came out from the backstage and stood under the bright sunlight. Suddenly, she felt as if a lifetime had passed. She covered her forehead with her hands and tiptoed to look through the crowd. She didn't see that familiar figure and felt a little disappointed. "Sai, why didn't Shinja wait for me and leave?" "Yuqi, were you waiting for me?" Tang Feng's deep eyes hid a smile. He quickly walked towards her. "I thought you were still backstage. I was just about to look for you. Chi-Chi, your performance just now was really wonderful. It was so beautiful that I will never forget it." A figure walked towards her. She didn't need to look back to know that it was Gu Fifan from that lazy and sexy voice. Ji Yuqi rubbed her forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Before she could say anything, another gentle and pleasant voice sounded. "Yuqi, our class is having a gathering tonight, and everyone wants to get to know you. Please allow me to invite you. Are you willing to go?" Ji Yuqi glanced at Tang Feng, who was looking at her with a burning gaze, Gu Fifan, who was throwing flirtatious glances at her, and Jiang Tianhao, who was smiling warmly. She felt more and more headache. For the first time, she found that after her rebirth, she had not only become ruthless, but also charming. The men who despised her in her previous life were now surrounding her. Unfortunately, she was not the brainless heroine in a romance novel. She would not forget their cold and ruthless nature, just because they were wearing a gentle and affectionate skin. The corners of her lips slowly curled up. Her eyes swept over the three people one by one, and finally fell on Jiang Tianhao. She said softly, "Senior, I'm very tired today. In order not to spoil your fun, I won't go. I hope you have a good time." "Brother Tang Feng, Gu Fifan, what's the matter?" Gu Fifan was very unhappy. Why was Tang Feng's brother Tang Feng? When it was his turn, she had to call him by his full name. He took a step forward and stood in front of Tang Feng. He elegantly brushed the hair in front of his forehead, and a pair of peach blossom eyes slightly raised. "Yuqi, why are you so formal? Call me Fifan. Otherwise, you know what I mean, okay?" Ji Yuqi was speechless. "You know what I mean? Don't make it sound so ambiguous, bastard. We're really not close." The corner of her eyes twitched, and she said stiffly, "Oh Fifan, what's the matter?" Gu Fifan narrowed his eyes. His slender fingers rested on his chin, and he looked distressed. "I was going to invite you to the gathering, but since you're tired, forget it. Let's go to the movies tomorrow. It's settled. Hey, don't casually make decisions for Yuqi. She's my fiancé." Tang Feng finally couldn't help but fly into a rage. He put his right hand on Gu Fifan's shoulder with a posture that said, "If you talk nonsense again, we'll fight." The scene was in a mess. Some people had already noticed them, and even took out their mobile phones to secretly take photos. Ji Yuqi didn't want to become the headline of the school's intranet. She quickly said with a smile, "Fifan, thank you, but I don't like to watch movies. Brother Tang Feng, you guys take your time. I'll go first. That's all. Goodbye." It'd be best if they never met again. Ji Yuqi hurriedly slipped away as fast as she could. Tang Feng and Gu Fifan looked at each other and saw helplessness and depression in each other's eyes. Jiang Tianhao couldn't help but smile. The person Yuqi really liked was him. No matter how the two men fought, they couldn't win against him. Ji Yuqi slipped to a place where there were fewer people. She covered her chest and gasped. Damn it, there were a bunch of rotten peach blossoms. Her mobile phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and her expression became serious. Qingseng, what's going on? The people of Gaoqiao Technology found out that it was Free who bought 10% of the scattered shares. Yu Lei said that he wanted to buy back the 10% shares and asked to negotiate with Phil. What do you think? Free was a clothing company registered abroad by Ji Yuqi. Phil was her English name, and also the owner of the clothing company. That was why Yu Lei said that he wanted to negotiate with Phil. The Free company was just an empty shell now. There were only 4 shareholders: Ji Yuqi, Ji Yunhan, Qingseng, and Xiaoro. Ji Yuqi was thinking about how to develop the company's business. Yu Lei came to her door. How timely. Ji Yuqi smiled with satisfaction. Qingseng, tell Yu Lei that Phil is abroad and can't meet with him. You are in charge of everything. Understood. Qingseng paused and said, Yuqi, are you really going to sell the shares to them? Gaoqiao Technology is doing well. Isn't it a pity? Beauty novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 851. Ji Yuqi smiled. You have to give up something to gain something. You can reply to Yu Lei first. As for the details, we'll talk about it when I get back. She was in a good mood as she leisurely walked towards the parking lot in her high heels. She stopped in front of her car and took out her keys from her handbag. Her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and her eyes curved. She placed the phone to her ear and chuckled. Why didn't you wait for me before leaving? Shenja's voice was unusually deep and solemn. Chi-Chi, don't get in the car and don't look around. Just walk straight ahead. You'll see my car after about 100 meters. Ji Yuqi felt strange. She did not know what he was up to. However, she listened to him and turned around and walked straight ahead. A silver Bentley stopped in front. The windows blocked the view inside, but Ji Yuqi knew that Shenja was inside. She knocked on the window and heard the sound of the car door being unlocked. She immediately opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat. Ji Yuqi turned to look at Shenja. Shenja, what happened? Shenja's expression was solemn as he slowly said, Someone installed a time bomb under your car. There's still half an hour before it explodes. I've already called the police. In about 10 minutes, the bomb disposal experts will arrive. Ji Yuqi was in disbelief. Bomb? How did you know? Shenja calmly replied. Ever since you went against the Black Flame sect, I was worried that Su Yanqing would deal with you. So I sent 2 people to protect you in secret. Today, one of them followed you into the auditorium while the other was guarding the parking lot. As expected, someone sneaked up on your car and installed a time bomb under your car. Ji Yuqi did not know how to describe her feelings at this moment. She thought that she had done a good job, but unexpectedly, she was almost killed. She thought that she had hidden her revenge from Shenja, but it turned out that he knew everything. He even secretly helped her with many things. This made her feel guilty and grateful. She could not help but reach out her hands and hug him. Leaning her head on his chest, she said softly, Shenja, thank you. Thank you for doing so many things for me. And thank you for being willing to accept the real me. Silly, no matter if you are good or bad, you are my wife. Of course, I have to protect my wife from any harm. Shenja kissed her hair, his dark eyes filled with tenderness. Ji Yuqi's lips curled up as she hugged him even tighter. After a long while, she asked in a low voice, Who ordered the person who installed the bomb? Su Yanqing. It seems like she already knows that you've harmed Suja. Shenja's deep eyes flashed with a touch of ruthlessness. Su Yanqing, this woman had thoroughly angered him. He would let her know the price she had to pay for hurting his beloved. Not only would he send her to prison, but he would also make her life a living hell. Ji Yuqi frowned and muttered, That's strange, Su Yanqing was still dealing with Chen Tingfang not long ago. Why would she suddenly? Her mind flashed and she blurted out, It must be Chen Tingfang. In order to get rid of Su Yanqing, that lunatic, she pushed me to her side. She snorted coldly. Ji Yuqi was not easy to deal with. She thought of the murder video. That was irrefutable evidence of Su Yanqing torturing Yi Zhaoxian to death. Sending that lunatic Su Yanqing to prison would be considered as getting rid of a scourge for the people. Shinja saw the change in her expression and his lips curled up. He asked knowingly, "What are you thinking about?" Since he had seen her true colors, there was no need for her to pretend to be kind and innocent. Ji Yuqi pursed her lips and said, "I'm thinking about how to deal with Su Yanqing. I have evidence of her murder, but I don't think it's enough. It's best to destroy her once and for all. She won't be able to make a comeback." His Chi-Chi was finally willing to take off her mask. Shinja was in a good mood. He kissed her forehead and murmured, "In addition to selling drugs, bribing officials, and premeditated murder, it's enough for her to die 2 or 3 times. Ji Yuqi's beautiful almond-shaped eyes narrowed. She suddenly thought of something and grabbed his arm tightly. Her voice changed. "Oh no, Su Yanqing is a vengeful person. Not only will she deal with me, she will also deal with Ahan. Shinja, hurry up. Let's go to Ahan's school." Shinja did not say anything and quickly started the car. Chi-Chi's consideration was not unreasonable. Ji Yunhan was very likely to be in danger. Ji Yuqi's face was a little pale. Her fingers swiped quickly on her phone. Ahan's phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. The uneasiness in her heart grew stronger, and her heart almost stopped beating. If Ahan had an accident. No, Ahan would definitely be fine. "Ahan, wait for me. You must wait for me." Shinja glanced at Ji Yuqi's panicked expression and his heart ached. He stepped on the gas pedal to the full, his cold eyes bottomless. The car sped on the road. Fortunately, the road conditions were good at this time, and there was no congestion. When the car arrived at Ji Yunhan's school, it was already half an hour later. Ji Yuqi rushed out of the car and anxiously called him. Shinja grabbed her arm and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry. Let's go to his classroom and ask his classmates and friends." Ji Yuqi nodded. Her eyes were red and her teeth were biting her lips. She quickly followed behind Shinja and continued to make calls. "Sis." The phone suddenly connected and Ji Yunhan's slightly weak voice came from the other side. Ji Yuqi suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her voice was sharp and impatient. "Ahan, where are you? Are you hurt?" The person on the other side of the phone coughed a few times and said while panting, "Sis, I'm in the woods behind the school. I'm not seriously hurt. Don't worry." Ji Yuqi's heart calmed down a little. "Wait for me. We'll be there right away." The moment she picked up the phone, Shinja had already turned around and walked to her side. Seeing this, he grabbed her wrist without hesitation. "Let's go. Let's go find him." It was the first time Ji Yuqi had seen Ji Yunhan in such a sorry state. He was leaning against a big tree with blood all over his body. His face was covered in blood, and there were 3 strong men lying at his feet. It looked like they had already fainted. "Ahan, why are you bleeding so much? Where are you hurt?" Ji Yuqi's hands were tightly holding onto his shoulders. Her eyes were already covered with a layer of mist. Ji Yunhan said embarrassedly, "Sis, I'm fine. This is all their blood. My leg is injured and I've used up all my strength so I can only lean here. It's good that you're fine. You almost scared me to death." Ji Yuqi rubbed his head, and then carefully examined his leg. She found a deep knife wound on his leg, and her eyes couldn't help but redden. Ji Yunhan giggled foolishly. "Sis, it's nothing. It's just a small wound. Men are more manly when they have more scars." With that said, he looked up at Shinja. His silly smile turned into a mischievous grin. "Brother-in-law, did I interrupt your date with my sister?" Shinja's expression was gentle as the corners of his lips curved. "It's good that you know. But seeing that your martial arts have improved, I'll forgive you." He had already checked the injuries of the 3 men earlier. There were more or less knife wounds on their bodies. The cause of their unconsciousness was a heavy blow to the back of their heads. The assassins sent by Su Yanqing were definitely not ordinary people. To be able to knock the 3 men unconscious, Ji Yunhan's martial arts had indeed improved. Ji Yuqi simply bandaged Ahan's wound and used a tissue to wipe the blood off his face. She helped him stand up and glanced at the 3 men on the ground. "Let's leave these people to the police." Shinja nodded in agreement. "Let Su Yanqing leave a criminal record in the police station. Our next move will be much smoother." The police were very efficient. Soon, the 3 assassins were brought to the police station. After a series of interrogation, threats and psychological attacks, the three men finally admitted that it was Su Yanqing who had ordered them to kidnap Ji Yunhan. Their purpose was to bring Ji Yunhan back to the headquarters of the Black Flame sect, and then use him to extort a ransom. As for the fact that Su Yanqing had sent people to plant a bomb under Ji Yuqi's car, they had no idea. Su Yanqing was sitting in the office dealing with gang affairs when a yellow-haired underling hurriedly knocked on the door and entered. Miss Bad News. Ying sent news that Ji Yuqi didn't get into the car at all. Instead, she got into another Bentley. Later, a bomb disposal expert from the police team came and defused the bomb on the car. What's worse is that several media outlets happened to be at Capital University. When they heard about the bomb, they immediately rushed to the scene. Now this matter has been hyped up by the media. Su Yanqing's expression changed. She suddenly slammed the table and stood up. What are you doing? Where's Ying? Tell him to get his ass back here immediately. Miss Bad News. Another underling ran into the office in a panic and said anxiously, Tiger and the other two have been arrested by the police. Su Yanqing's face was ashen. Her eyes were so sinister that it was frightening. She angrily said, Ji Yunhan is just a brat who's still wet behind the ears. Tiger and the other two couldn't even handle him. When did the people of the Black Flame sect become useless cowards? Ah. The yellow-haired underling who came in first had a long face and didn't dare to refute. The last one who came in last shrunk his neck and said in a trembling voice, Miss, there's one more thing. He cowered and didn't dare to speak again. Su Yanqing saw his cowardly appearance and became angry. She sternly said, Speak. The underling's legs went soft, and he almost knelt down in front of her. He stuttered, That I don't know who recorded the video of Yi Zhaoxian being killed, and it was posted online. Now all the media are saying that the Black Flame sect's miss is a demon who kills without batting an eyelid. He couldn't finish his sentence because he was so frightened by Su Yanqing's fierce and cruel gaze that he almost peed in his pants. The brothers of the Black Flame sect all knew of the big Miss's bloody methods. There was no one who didn't fear her. Even her angry gaze could make them tremble. Su Yanqing couldn't care less about getting angry at her underlings. She impatiently waved her hand and ordered them to leave. She angrily paced around the office with a murderous aura. She thought that she could easily handle that useless rich girl, but she didn't expect to fall into her hands. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 852. As for where the video of Yi Zhaoxian being killed came from, Su Yanqing was not in the mood to investigate. The most important thing now was to get rid of Tiger and the others. They knew too many secrets. If they confessed to the police, then she would definitely die. She would never allow that to happen. Unfortunately, she was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Before she could bribe the spies in the prison to silence Tiger, she had already been forced into a desperate situation and could not escape the net of justice. The video of Yi Zhaoxian being killed went viral on the internet. When Yi Zisa saw it, it was during recess. She was playing with her phone out of boredom and opened the most popular video on the internet. She did not expect to see such a bloody and cruel scene. She stared at the man being killed on the screen in disbelief. She watched it over and over again until she could not help but want to vomit. Then she burst into tears. The surrounding students were shocked. Before they could ask what happened, Yi Zisa had already covered her face and ran out of the classroom. She hid in the toilet and cried loudly. As she cried, she called Chen Tingfang's phone with her trembling phone. Mom. Dad is dead. Dad was killed. Yi Zisa cried hysterically. She had long forgotten her image and ladylike etiquette. As she cried, she incoherently complained. Mom, tell me. That's not true. How could Dad die? Didn't they say that scourges live for 1,000 years? A bastard like him should live for 100 years. Dad, I'm sorry. I was stubborn before. It was my fault. Dad, come back quickly. Yi Zisa leaned against the wall of the cubicle and cried. She did not know that outside the toilet was full of people who were watching the show. They exaggerated the scene and posted it on the school's intranet, making Yi Zisa famous again. The world was so cruel. Even if a tragedy happened to a person who was disgusted, it was still a good show to entertain the public. On the other end of the phone, Chen Tingfang's face was already covered in tears. From her daughter's intermittent complaints, she understood the truth. Her ex-husband Yi Zhaoxian had really been killed by Su Yanqing. Su Yanqing, that woman, killing someone was one thing, but why did she use such a cruel method to torture him to death? Chen Tingfang was filled with hatred and anger. It was indeed their fault for having an affair with Yi Zhaoxian, but why did Yi Zhaoxian find her? Wasn't it because Su Yanqing couldn't satisfy him? Obviously, Su Yanqing was also responsible, but Su Yanqing, that vicious woman, pushed all the blame onto them. She really wanted to bite Su Yanqing to death and avenge Yi Zhaoxian. Yes, there was also Ji Yuqi, that B*TCH. If it weren't for that B*TCH, she wouldn't have used Yi Zhaoxian to get entangled with him, and she wouldn't have provoked Su Yanqing's hatred. Chen Tingfang channeled all her anger and hatred onto others. She felt that the whole world had wronged her and Yi Zhaoxian, and that she was the most innocent. After calming down, Chen Tingfang thought about a problem. There were a few big news stories today. First, Ji Yuqi's car was planted with a bomb. Then Ji Yunhan was attacked. Then the video of Su Yanqing killing someone was leaked. There must be some kind of connection between these incidents. Her mind was spinning quickly. On the other end of the phone, Yi Zhisu was still crying, and it annoyed her. She shouted impatiently, "Stop crying. What can you solve by crying now? Can you bring a dead person back to life?" Yi Zhisu was shocked by her shout. Her tears were still flowing, but she didn't dare to cry out loud. She sobbed a few times and burped. "Mom, tell me, why is our family so unlucky, but Ji Yuqi is so lucky? Even the bomb couldn't kill her. Does she have the protection of a god or something?" Hearing her words, Chen Tingfang's mind flashed. She suddenly figured out the whole thing. Planting the bomb and attacking Ji Yunhan must have been done by Su Yanqing. In the end, not only did she not succeed, she became a target of scorn. Everyone wanted to beat her up. It wasn't because Ji Yuqi was lucky, but because there really was someone protecting her. It seemed that Ji Yuqi's backer was very powerful. Even the Black Flame sect was no match for him. In the future, she had to be more careful. Otherwise, she wouldn't know when the other party would destroy her. After Ji Yuqi posted the video of Su Yanqing's murder on the internet, she waited for the police to investigate. She knew that with the public condemnation, the police would definitely treat this matter seriously. She was right. The murder on the internet had caused a sensation. The news media said that the gangs were too powerful, and the citizens didn't feel safe. Some people even started to question the lack of action of the law enforcement. The government's credibility was affected by a crisis. The higher-ups were pressuring them to pay more attention to the fight against the gangs. The police were under pressure from all levels and actively collected evidence of the Black Flame sect's crimes. They also set up an inescapable net to hunt down Su Yanqing and her gang. When Su Yanqing was arrested, she had already created a fake ID and boarded a plane to fly abroad. A few plainclothes police officers subdued her on the plane. When she was escorted off the plane, the surrounding crowd applauded and cheered. The other high-ranking members of the Black Flame sect were also arrested on their way to escape. Ying City's government launched a heavy attack and achieved great success in the fight against the gangs. All the members of the Black Flame sect were arrested, and the other gangs were also disbanded. At least on the surface, they seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Su Yanqing was suspected of murder, drug trafficking, premeditated murder, and many other crimes. She was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve. She thought that as long as she performed well during the reprieve, she might have a chance to live. However, she didn't know that this was just the beginning of her nightmare. After entering the prison, she was targeted by the bosses of the prison. When she was eating, someone purposely knocked over her lunchbox. When she was bathing, and when she was resting, there were people who sexually harassed her. Although this was a women's prison, the long-term sexual repression had caused the female prisoners' psychology to be distorted. They would imitate men's *X actions and harass the new prisoners. They even forced the new prisoners to serve them. And Su Yanqing was that unlucky new prisoner. The prison bully brought a group of tall and strong women to beat her up every day. In the beginning, she still had the strength to fight back. However, after a long period of malnutrition, her physical strength deteriorated. She couldn't fight back, and could only watch as they humiliated her. She complained to the prison guards several times, but the result was that the prison bully treated her even more cruelly. In just a few months, her hands and feet were crippled, and her face was disfigured. She lived a life worse than death every day. She wanted to commit suicide, but she was saved time and time again. She was brainwashed by the people around her and gradually became crazy. Her mental state was very poor, and she was finally sent to a mental hospital to spend the rest of her life there. She was often bullied by other patients and even doctors. She did not know her own name, and she had forgotten everything. She wandered down the corridor like a zombie. When she was bullied, she would laugh foolishly, and saliva would drip from the corner of her mouth. She had even forgotten how to cry. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Jiang Tianhao had already joined the Oriental Real Estate Design Department. As a newcomer, he was often ostracized by the senior staff. Fortunately, the director of the design department valued him, and often taught him how to build a good relationship with his colleagues and how to work better. He also often gave him some more important tasks to train his ability. Overall, he was quite satisfied with his current work situation. As for Ji Yuqi, she had already rented a floor in the World Trade Center and established the China branch of Free Clothing Company. She had also hired more than 10 designers. These designers would be famous fashion designers in 5 years. However, they were still fresh graduates. Other than being full of enthusiasm, they had no experience to speak of. I don't care if you have experience or not. What I care about is your brains and your talents. I am willing to provide you with a good working environment, a perfect reward system, and nurture you to grow step by step. On the day of the designer's appointment, Ji Yuqi looked at each of them sincerely and conveyed the philosophy of free company. Freedom, flight, growth. I hope you have the courage to pursue your dreams. I hope you will eventually become the founding members of the company. Don't let me down. The enthusiasm in the hearts of the young designers was aroused. They immediately said that they would work harder to repay the company. Yuqi, you are really amazing now. Qingseng crossed her legs and sat opposite Ji Yuqi. Her face was expressionless, but a faint smile flashed across her cold eyes. She had changed from an assassin to the vice president of Free Clothing Company. She was really not used to it, but it didn't matter. She still had a long time to get used to it. Ji Yuqi looked up at her with a faint smile. You have also done well. Our company has changed from an empty shell to what it is now. You have contributed greatly. Let's not talk about other things. Just the fact that you helped me find this group of designers is already very impressive. Qingseng shrugged and said blandly, you gave me the list. In the end, you are amazing. You actually noticed that they were different. Ji Yuqi chuckled. She was not amazing. She just had a good memory. In her previous life, she liked to read fashion magazines the most. She remembered the names of those famous fashion designers. That was why she was able to win them over to her company before they became famous. That was cheating. All right, let's stop praising each other. How did your negotiation with Yulei go? Qingseng frowned. That man is as cunning as a fox. He tried to lower our price step by step. However, I am not someone to be trifled with. Of course, I won't let him have his way. I told him that tomorrow is the last negotiation. If he agrees to our terms, we have a deal. If he doesn't, he can go away and have fun. Ji Yuqi couldn't help but laugh. Hey, your assassin temper is acting up again. That's how business is. You go back and forth, and you test each other. It takes a long time to reach an agreement. However, you are right to pressure him. We can afford to wait, but he can't. That old fox Yu Lindong has been pressuring him a lot recently. Awesome novel Xingwu 799. Chapter 853. The location of the last negotiation between Free Clothing and Gaucho Technology was the conference room of Gaucho Technology. Only Yulei and Qingseng were in the large conference room. Yulei was indeed the most outstanding descendant of the Yu family and the future successor. He was different from Shenji's arrogant and domineering aura, and also different from Gu Fifen's elegance. He was extraordinarily handsome and had a very positive quality, which made people want to get close to him. Even when negotiating in the business world, he didn't hide this quality at all. He often used his own feelings to defeat his opponents. He put his hands on the conference table, leaned forward slightly, and stared into Chingsang's eyes with bright eyes. He laughed heartily and said, "Chingsang, we've dealt with each other several times. Do you mind if I call you Chingsang? I can give you the land at San River Bay in the west of the city, and I can give you the domestic sales channels for free for 10 years. But I can't give you the overseas sales channels. This is the biggest concession I can make. If we can't reach an agreement, I can only express my regret." Chingsang leaned back in the chair. She clasped her hands and looked at Yulei calmly with her dark eyes. Her voice had a unique coldness. "Okay, deal." Yulei obviously didn't expect her to agree so readily. He was stunned, but quickly reacted. He stood up and stretched out his right hand with a warm smile. "Chingsang, happy cooperation." Chingsang also stood up and shook his right hand. "Happy cooperation. Mr. Yu, I hope to sign the contract tomorrow. Is there any problem with the contract preparation?" "No problem. The contract has been drafted. My secretary will send it to you in advance." Yulei smiled, revealing his white teeth. He was very charming. "Okay then, I won't disturb you. Goodbye." Chingsang picked up her briefcase with a calm expression. She didn't look like she had just negotiated a big deal at all. Yulei raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Chingsang, we're friends now. Can you do me the honor of having a meal together to celebrate the success of our negotiation?" Chingsang glanced at her watch and said lightly, "Sorry, I've already made an appointment with someone at noon." Yulei's smile didn't change. "Then we'll celebrate together after signing the contract tomorrow. How about that?" Chingsang was expressionless. "If you insist." A smile appeared in Yulei's eyes. Could it be that this woman only had one kind of expression? He shrugged and opened the door for her like a gentleman. He smiled and said, "I insist. Let's look forward to the signing ceremony tomorrow. See you tomorrow." Chingsang carried her briefcase and turned to leave. Her figure, wrapped in a beige suit, was curvy and exquisite. Her steps were light and graceful, swaying gracefully. From her back, no one would have guessed that she had a pretty face like an iceberg. Yulei looked at her back and raised his eyebrows. A look of interest flashed across his eyes. Free Clothing CEO's office. Ji Yuqi leaped up from her seat, threw herself at Chingsang, and hugged her. Her face was full of smiles. "Chingsang, I knew you could do it. The land in the west of the city is ours. Also, the company's domestic sales channels are open. Our company is finally on the right track." Chingsang felt a little awkward being hugged by her. She coughed awkwardly and said dryly, "Let go of me first." "Oh, I'm sorry. I was too excited and forgot." Ji Yuqi hurriedly let go of her. Chingsang hated physical contact with others the most. Chingsang's eyes flashed with a faint smile. Her voice was no longer flat, and there was a hint of emotion in it. "Yuqi, the land in the west of the city is now a barren land overgrown with weeds. It's far from the city, and transportation is inconvenient. Why do you want it?" Ji Yuqi sat back in her seat and said with a smile, "I thought you wouldn't ask. Let me tell you, that land is worthless now. However, the government is likely to build a development zone in the west of the city. When that time comes, the price of the land in Shaiyuan will be several times higher than it is now. It's precisely because that land is worthless now that Yulei is willing to give it to you so readily. What he can't bear to part with is the domestic sales channel." The Yu family had hundreds of large chain shopping malls in the country. What Ji Yuqi wanted was to have a free counter in each of the Yu family's shopping malls. This meant that Free Clothing Company had used the Yu family's shopping malls to open up domestic sales channels. For the Yu family, providing Free with a free counter for 10 years was a huge loss for them. As for the overseas sales channel, it would be better if they got it. However, it didn't matter if they didn't get it. When they first brought it up, it was also to give Yulei a greater sense of achievement when bargaining. This kind of mentality was just like buying things. The more expensive something was, the lower the price you bought it at, the more you would feel that you had taken advantage of it. In reality, The shop was just raising the price to give you a sense of psychological satisfaction. Chingsang admired Ji very much. She really didn't know how a girl in her early 20s could understand the business world so well. She knew so many twists and turns of the business world. With this thought in mind, she asked naturally. Ji raised her eyebrows and smiled. She said slowly, "Hey, I have a famous teacher to guide me." Chingsang frowned. A famous teacher? Was she referring to her father, Ji Bowen, or young Master Shin? Ji rarely saw Chingsang frowning and deep in thought. She couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Alright, don't think about it. It's time for lunch. Let's eat together." Chingsang stood up as well. The two of them had just walked to the door of the office when the door was suddenly opened from the outside. A handsome and elegant figure entered their line of sight. Ji rushed to the person in surprise. "Aja, why are you back? Didn't you say that you would be back in 2 days?" Shinja's handsome face had a natural and gentle smile. He rubbed her hair and said, "I heard that someone closed a big business deal, so I came back to celebrate." "Why? Am I not welcome?" "Of course you are welcome." Ji grabbed his hand happily. Shinja had gone abroad to discuss business. He had been gone for a week. This was the first time she had experienced the feeling of missing someone. If Chingsang hadn't been there, she would have rushed to give him a warm hug. Shinja pulled her into his arms and wrapped his arms tightly around her waist. His deep black eyes were shining with a smile. He lowered his head and got closer and closer to her cheek. She blushed and said softly, "Don't. Chingsang is still here." He chuckled. His deep and magnetic voice seemed to come from his chest. "She left long ago." As soon as he finished speaking, he kissed her lips gently. She couldn't help but wrap her arms around his waist. He gently rubbed her cheek and murmured softly, "Chichi, did you miss me?" "Yes." She leaned her head against his chest and listened to his strong heartbeat. She couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. "I missed you too. I missed you so much that I couldn't sleep." He kissed her hair and rubbed his hot palm on her slender waist. The two of them were tightly pressed together. They didn't want to be separated from each other. Gulp, gulp. A strange sound broke the warm atmosphere. Shinja chuckled softly. Ji covered his ears and said coquettishly, "You didn't hear anything." "Oh, I really didn't hear anything." He smiled and kissed her pouty lips again. He held her hand and said, "Let's go and eat. I suddenly feel very hungry." Next to the World Trade Center was a shopping mall. It had food, shopping, and entertainment. The two of them came out of the World Trade Center and walked toward the shopping mall while chatting and laughing. In a cafe across the street, a man and a woman were sitting by the window. The woman inadvertently looked out the window and saw a young man and woman holding hands across the street. The man lowered his head and whispered something in the woman's ear. The woman immediately smiled charmingly. "Sister Chun, what's wrong?" Xiao Yihan followed Chen Tingfang's gaze and asked with concern. Chen Tingfang looked away and smiled. "I think I saw my eldest daughter. Maybe I was mistaken." She believed that she was not mistaken. The woman holding the stranger's arm and smiling brightly was Ji. Unfortunately, she could only see the man's side profile. She could not see who he was. Xiao Yihan's clear eyes were smiling brightly. Her voice was as charming as pearls and jade. "Sister Chen's eldest daughter seems to be called Ji, right? People say that it's hard to be a stepmother. Sister Chen, it's really been hard on you all these years." Over the past month, Xiao Yihan had asked Chen Tingfang out a few times. They ate, rode horses, swam, climbed mountains, and so on. Chen Tingfang always called Yizisu. It was obvious that she wanted to matchmake them. Unfortunately, the two of them did not seem to have feelings for each other. Xiao Yihan was very polite to Yizisu, and Zisu only treated Xiao Yihan as a normal friend. After so many times, Chen Tingfang could only give up on matchmaking. However, her relationship with Xiao Yihan had become much closer. Occasionally, she would talk about some family matters. Chen Tingfang's smile was a little bitter. She lowered her eyes and looked at the coffee cup in front of her. She said lightly, "So what? Who told me to have this kind of life? Yihan, you're still young. You don't know how hard it is for a woman. When you have a wife in the future, you must treat her better. No matter how hard it is for a woman, As long as she has a man who knows her well and loves her, she will be satisfied. The smile on Xiao Yihan's face gradually disappeared. His clear eyes became deep and seemed to contain many complex emotions. He stared fixedly at Chen Tingfang's well-maintained and charming face. His thin lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something. His sudden silence made Chen Tingfang feel strange. She raised her head to look at him. He looked like a child who had been caught cheating by his teacher. He looked away in a panic, and his cheeks were slightly red. When Chen Tingfang saw his shy look, the knot in her heart miraculously disappeared. She raised her eyebrows and joked. "You seem to be very shy every time we talk about women. Yihan, have you never been in a relationship before?" Xiao Yihan coughed awkwardly to hide his panic. "How could that be? I used to have many girlfriends." Chen Tingfang supported her chin with one hand. Her beautiful eyes blinked with interest. She opened her red eyes slightly and said softly, "Yihan, don't tell me you're still a virgin?" Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 854. Xiao Yihan's handsome face instantly flushed red. His eyes widened as he stammered, "Sister Chen Yu." Chen Tingfang covered her mouth with her right hand and giggled. Her voice was soft and gentle with a hint of teasing. "So I guessed correctly." Her every movement exuded a unique feminine charm. Her every frown and smile was mesmerizing. Many men in the cafe were attracted to her. Even Xiao Yihan, whose face was flushed red from embarrassment, stared at her without blinking. His clear and moist eyes were shining brightly, so bright that it was frightening. His handsome face was getting redder and redder, as if it was about to drip water. He bit his lip. He looked helpless and innocent. Chen Tingfang's motherly love was ignited. She couldn't help but reach out and pinch his smooth skin. She smiled and said, "There's nothing to be shy about. It's rare to see a boy who is so clean and honest. You're a good boy. In the future, there will be a good girl who will give you happiness." Xiao Yihan bit her lips again. She seemed to have made up her mind. She suddenly grabbed Chen Xiaobei's hand. Her burning hot palm wrapped around Chen Xiaobei's hand tightly. With a serious expression she said, "Sister Chen, I like you." Chen Tingfang felt as if she had been burned by fire. She quickly flung his hand away and laughed dryly. "Yihan, you're my younger brother. I like you too." Xiao Yihan hurriedly said, "It's not that kind of like. Sister Chen, my feelings for you." He paused, and his handsome face began to blush again. "My feelings for you are that of a man and a woman." Chen Tingfang's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She actually felt her blood boiling. She quickly pressed her palm against her chest. After all, she was someone who had experienced great storms. She quickly calmed down and smiled. "Yihan, you're still young. You don't know what love is. You probably think I'm your mother. This isn't like, it's kinship. I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first." After she finished speaking, she did not even look at him. She picked up her handbag and was about to leave when Xiao Yihan grabbed her arm. His scorching gaze made her heart ache. His voice was low and he was serious like never before. "I didn't make a mistake. I really like you. If I didn't like you, why would I ask you out so often? I also know that you want to set me up with Zissou. You don't know how sad I am. My pain, my struggle, you don't understand. I know that there is a big gap between us, but when it comes to love, it just happens. I can't control it. I just want to love you. Is that wrong?" When he said the last sentence, his tone was so humble. He even looked at her with pleading eyes. She was stunned. Her body froze on the spot, and her heart raced uncontrollably. In her life, she had only loved one person, and that was Ji Bowen. However, in the end, she still listened to her family's wishes and married Yi Zhaoxian. Even after she married Ji Bowen, the two of them lost their previous feelings for each other. She thought that she would never have love again. However, when the young and handsome boy in front of her confessed to her, her heart raced and her blood started to boil. A small voice in her head quietly told her, "You're not old yet. There are still outstanding men who love you. Accept him." "Tingfang, I don't expect you to accept me. I just want to love you silently. Can't I do that?" Xiao Yihan's deep eyes were filled with pain. The hand holding her trembled slightly. He was very nervous and apprehensive as he waited for her answer. Chen Tingfang's heart trembled. She gathered all her rationality and slowly pushed his hand away. Ihan, let's not meet again. I don't want to ruin you. She didn't dare to look at his disappointed eyes again. She grabbed her handbag and fled in a hurry. She ran to the roadside and got into her car. She still saw Xiao Ihan standing in a daze in the cafe. The mottled light fell on his handsome face. It was so cold that it made her heart tremble. She slowly closed her eyes and ordered Xie Bing to drive. Xie Bing turned his head and glanced in Xiao Ihan's direction. He expressionlessly started the car. Chen Tingfang's calm heart was stirred up by Xiao Ihan's pebble. She couldn't calm down for a long time. Her mind was in a mess, and she temporarily forgot to find out who Ji Yuqi's date was. Yi Zixu had been very unhappy recently. Jiang Tianhao was no longer as attentive and considerate to her as before. In the past, no matter when she called him, he would immediately rush to her side. He often said that she was his princess and he was her knight. No matter what trouble she encountered, he would appear by her side. But now, when she sent him text messages, he often didn't reply. When she called him, he said that he was busy. When she wanted to see him, he said that he was working overtime at the company. Every time she couldn't help but throw a tantrum, Jiang Tianhao would pacify her and say affectionately, "Zixu, I have nothing now. In order to marry you, in order to let us live a good life, I have to work hard. You will definitely understand, right?" What else could Yi Zixu say? She could only suppress her dissatisfaction and put on a gentle smile on her face. She hugged his waist and gently expressed that she understood. One day, Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan were nestled on the sofa in the living room to watch a melodramatic romance drama. Ji Yunhan pointed at the second female lead and said disdainfully, "Is that woman an idiot? Once a man tells a woman that he's busy and doesn't answer her calls or reply to her texts, it means that he doesn't love her anymore. What's more, it's a sign that he's having an affair." That woman actually foolishly believed her boyfriend's words. "Sigh, Mom, I can't watch this stupid drama anymore." Ji Yuqi smacked her head and scolded jokingly, "Go away, you little brat. How old are you? You speak as if you know a lot about relationships." Ji Yunhan said unhappily, "Even though I don't understand what you mean by love, I understand men. There are many boys in our class like that. When they're chasing girls, they're all over the place and treat them extremely well. Once they're tired of playing, they find the girl annoying and start to neglect her." Ji Yunhan rambled on and on. Ji Yuqi rolled her eyes as she listened. She laughed unhappily and said, "According to what you're saying, there are no good men in the world." Ji Yunhan puffed out his chest proudly and said with a proud expression, "What kind of eyes are you talking about? There's one right in front of you." The siblings chatted happily, and their laughter could be heard from time to time in the living room. Yi Zixu, who was standing on the second floor, was pale as a sheet. Her fingers gripped the railing tightly. Could it really be like what Ji Yunhan said? That Tianhao was already tired of her? He was just a newbie who had just joined the company and hadn't even passed the probation period. How could he have so much work to do? The more Yi Zixu thought about it, the more frightened she became. Her mind was in a mess. She gritted her teeth and sent a text to Jiang Tianhao. "Tianhao, are you working overtime again tonight? I don't have class tonight. I'll make a lunchbox and send it to your office, okay?" After waiting for more than half an hour, he finally replied, "No need. Our company will provide meals for those who are working overtime. I don't want you to be too tired. The meeting is about to start. Let's chat when we're free." If it was in the past, she would have been very happy to hear him say that he didn't want her to be too tired. But now, she couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. She suspected that he didn't want to see her. Trust and suspicion warred in her mind. In the end, suspicion won out. Yi Zixu personally made a few dishes, put them in a lunchbox and left the house. Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan stood by the second-floor window and watched Yi Zixu leave. They couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Ji Yunhan chuckled and said, "Sis, did you plant a spy in Dongfang real estate? Otherwise, how would you know what Jiang Tianhao has been busy with recently?" Ji Yuqi's smile deepened. "Of course. Aren't Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zixu true love? Since it's true love, it has to be able to withstand the test. I'll let them experience all the twists and turns that love has to go through, haha. Ji Yunhan shook his shoulders exaggeratedly. Sis, please don't laugh like that in front of my brother-in-law. I'm really worried that he'll abandon you because of this. Ji Yuqi glanced at him. Why? It's so gloomy and scary. Be careful that he doesn't like you. After Ji Yunhan finished speaking, he quickly jumped away, afraid that she would take revenge on him. Ji Yuqi retorted naturally. No way. He's seen me even scarier. Who would dislike me? He won't dislike me. She said these words calmly and didn't feel that there was anything wrong with them. However, Ji Yunhan's gaze towards her changed. There was a little jealousy and a little jealousy. He said sourly. I didn't expect you to trust him so much. Aha, men like to eat from the bowl and look at the pot. You have to be careful and not be fooled by him too badly. Ji Yuqi reached out and rubbed his head. She smiled evilly and said, Are you jealous? Don't worry. Even if I get married in the future, I'll still be your sister. I won't abandon you. Ji Yunhan looked away and snorted proudly. Who's jealous? Finally, someone wants you. You don't need me to take care of you anymore. I'm more than happy. Back to Yi Zissou. She took her lunchbox and went to Dongfang Real Estate Company to look for Jiang Tianhao. It was already past 8 o'clock and the company had already knocked off. The office was empty except for 1 or 2 employees working overtime. She asked for the location of the design department's office and walked straight to the other end of the corridor. Tianhao, I'll have to trouble you to work overtime with me. A sweet baby voice was especially clear in the quiet night. Yi Zissou stopped in her tracks and stood in the corridor. She looked at the 2 people in the office from afar. A tall and slender man stood beside a cute girl. His handsome face had a gentle smile as he said gently, It's okay. This document should have been completed by the 2 of us. Xiao Shui, look here. There's a mistake in this row of data. I'm too careless. Fortunately, you're here. Lin Shui smiled and looked up. She bumped into Jiang Tianhao, who was bent over the computer. Their faces were close and his lips just happened to touch her forehead. Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 855. I'm sorry. Lin Shui's cheeks were red as she stood up from the chair in a panic. Unexpectedly, she stood up too quickly. She was also wearing high heels, so she lost her balance and fell backward. Be careful. Jiang Tianhao reflexively reached out to grab her waist. She screamed as she steadied herself and fell straight into his arms. Ba-thump. Ba-thump. Shui Lin's heart was beating very fast. She was still in shock. Her hands were tightly gripping Jiang Tianhao's suit. Her small face was deathly pale. And her pair of clear eyes were wide open. It was obvious that she had not recovered from the shock just now. Jiang Tianhao looked at her misty eyes and saw that she was as cute as a frightened little white rabbit. For some reason, he patted her back gently and said in a gentle voice, It's okay now. I'm sorry. Lin Shui finally reacted and hurriedly pushed him away. As she retreated, she bumped into the chair again and her body staggered. Jiang Tianhao hurriedly grabbed her arm and said helplessly, Be careful. She was so embarrassed that her cheeks were red. She lowered her eyes and did not dare to look at him. Jiang Tianhao looked at her bashful appearance and could not help but smile. What a cute little muddle-headed egg. The atmosphere in the office was ambiguous. Yi Zissou stared at the 2 of them with a livid expression. Her chest was filled with the anger of betrayal. Her fingers gripped the lunchbox tightly. She really wanted to throw the lunchbox at that vixen's face. She took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. After doing so many times, she finally suppressed the anger in her heart. She tried hard to adjust her facial expression. Finally, a smile appeared on her lips. She tidied her clothes and hair, and walked into the office gracefully. She called softly, Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao quickly let go of Lin Shui's hand and turned his head. The smile on his handsome face was natural and warm. Zissou, didn't I say that I didn't want you to be tired? Why did you still come? My heart aches for you. Yi Zissou walked up to him gracefully and put the lunchbox on Lin Shui's desk. She put one arm around Jiang Tianhao's waist, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him on the lips. She said softly, You must be hungry after working so late. I made chicken soup and your favorite dishes. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tianhao stroked her hair and turned his gaze to Xuelin. Seeing her standing there awkwardly, he suddenly felt a trace of resentment towards Yi Zissou. He blamed her for not knowing how to take care of other people's feelings. She neglected Xuelin and made him lose face in front of his colleagues. He secretly shook Yi Zissou's hand and smiled. Zissou, let's get to know each other. This is my colleague Lin Shui. Yi Zissou leaned into Jiang Tianhao's arms and reached out her hand to Lin Shui. She smiled and said, Miss Lin, nice to meet you. I am Tianhao's fiancée Yi Zissou. Lin Shui shook her hand and smiled unnaturally. Nice to meet you, Miss Yi. Yi Zissou smiled gracefully. Miss Lin, you haven't eaten yet, right? If you don't mind, you can eat with our Tianhao. Lin Shui quickly waved her hand. No, I've already eaten my lunch. Thank you for your kindness. Yi Zissou smiled and didn't say anything else. She turned and hugged Jiang Tianhao's arm. She picked up the lunchbox with her other hand and said softly, Tianhao, let's eat first. Otherwise, the food will get cold. Where's your desk? Over there. Jiang Tianhao led Yi Zissou to his desk. After walking a few steps, he suddenly remembered something. He turned around and said to Lin Shui, who was standing there in a daze, Lin Shui, correct the mistake just now. I'll check to see if there are any problems later. Lin Shui quickly nodded. Okay. Walking to Jiang Tianhao's desk, Yi Zissou was very unhappy. Was there a mistake? It was actually 2 rows behind Lin Shui. From here, she could clearly see Lin Shui's back. Wasn't it convenient for her to seduce Tianhao? She was fuming inside, but she had a sweet smile on her face. She personally scooped a bowl of soup for Jiang Tianhao. She scooped a spoonful of soup and brought it to his mouth. She said softly, Tianhao, have a bowl of chicken soup first to warm your stomach. Jiang Tianhao's brows relaxed and his expression softened. He took a sip from her hand. It's delicious. I didn't expect Zissou's cooking skills to be so good. Yi Zissou pouted playfully. Of course. Don't you know who I am? I'm your future wife. Of course I have to learn how to cook. Only then will I be able to capture your stomach. In the past, when the 2 of them were together, they often joked about this. Jiang Tianhao would definitely make her happy. But now his feelings for Yi Zissou were gradually fading. When he heard these words again, he only felt awkward. He just smiled and didn't say anything else. Yi Zissou mistakenly thought that he was worried about Lin Shui, and didn't want to tease her in front of her. She became angrier, and even resented him. She had always been wholeheartedly devoted to him, and even gave him her virginity. But what about him? One moment he was sucking up to Ji Yuqi. The next moment he was sucking up to his female colleagues. Why didn't he think about her? She was his official fiancée. With this thought, she was no longer in the mood to pretend to be gentle and virtuous. She stuffed the bowl of soup into his hands and quietly sat beside him. She turned her head away in a fit of pique and didn't even look at Jiang Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao saw that she was sulking and his mind raced. Could it be that she was jealous because she saw him hugging Lin Shui just now? That couldn't be right. If she really saw it, with her temper, she would definitely have rushed out and flipped out. She wouldn't have held it in until now. Then, what exactly was going on? Jiang Tianhao was exhausted after a tiring day, and still had to guess what Yi Zissou was thinking. He felt that she was too immature, and was even more dissatisfied with her. He put down his chopsticks and moved in front of her. He pulled her into his arms and whispered, Baby, what's wrong? You don't seem too happy. Yi Zissou pouted and said in a muffled voice, Do you not want to see me? Jiang Tianhao hugged her tightly and said mushy words as if they were free. Of course not. I miss you so much that I can't sleep at night. I just want to marry you as soon as possible. I work so hard just so that I can live with you every day. Baby, I know I've been too busy recently and neglected you. Don't be angry, okay? Yi Zissou looked up at him and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her beautiful big eyes were misty and her red lips were slightly pouted, as if she was extremely wronged. She said softly, I thought you didn't like me anymore. Even though Jiang Tianhao was disgusted with her when he saw her pitiful appearance, He couldn't help but think of the two of them making love. His body couldn't help but heat up. He hugged her tighter and said in a hoarse voice, "Silly, what are you thinking? You're my future wife. If I don't like you, who else would I like?" Yi Zissu smiled through her tears and threw herself into his arms. She whispered in his ear, "Tianhao, I love you so much. Don't leave me, okay?" A certain part of Jiang Tianhao's body quietly raised its head. He mischievously rubbed against her abdomen and whispered into her ear, "Don't say I don't want to leave you. Even it doesn't want to leave you." Yi Zissu shyly buried her head in his arms and gently punched his chest. "You're so bad. How can you do this?" With a beauty in his arms and a faint fragrance wafting into his nose, Jiang Tianhao's body felt even more uncomfortable. His handsome cheeks were flushed and the sweat on his forehead flowed slowly down his hairline. He suddenly pulled Yi Zissu's hand and stood up. His tight suit pants immediately revealed his tight suit pants. He quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around his waist. His breathing was unsteady as he said, "Zissu, my work is almost done. Let's go home." "Oh, okay. Hey, slow down. Wait a minute, I forgot my lunchbox." "It's okay. I'll come and get it tomorrow." Yi Zissu was pulled by Jiang Tianhao as they ran. She couldn't help but look back at Lin Shui. She didn't expect Lin Shui to also look up. Their eyes just happened to meet. Lin Shui looked surprised. She obviously didn't understand why they suddenly left. Yi Zissu smiled coquettishly with arrogance in her eyes. The two ran all the way to the underground parking lot. Jiang Tianhao snatched the car key from Yi Zissu's hand, opened the door, and pulled her into the driver's seat. He didn't even have time to close the door before he eagerly kissed her face. Wait a minute. Not here." Yi Zissu panicked. She pulled the door over and locked it tightly. Jiang Tianhao panted, "It's okay. No one will be here." He couldn't hold it in anymore. If he held it in any longer, he would definitely go crazy. In the narrow car, a fiery drama soon unfolded. The two people who were deeply in love soon lost their way. They were completely unaware that a thin figure had quietly appeared behind a pillar and recorded everything with a camera. When Ji Yuqi received those photos, she was in the Golden Bay, having dinner with Shenjia. Her phone beeped twice, indicating that she had received a new email. She logged into her mailbox and saw the photos. The corners of her lips curled up. She had accidentally added a little deer penis powder to Yi Zissu's chicken soup. She didn't expect the two of them to be so passionate about it. She must give a good review to the shop that sold the deer penis powder. A large hand suddenly reached over and snatched her phone away. Shinja glanced at the photos and said seriously, "It looks very interesting. We can try it in the future." Ji Yuqi glared at him and snatched the phone back. "If you talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up." Shinja stretched his arm in front of her and said calmly, "I'll let you beat me up. Feel free." She narrowed her eyes slightly. Suddenly, the corners of her lips curled up. She smiled like a sly little fox and quickly grabbed his arm. She opened her mouth and bit his wrist, leaving a circle of teeth marks. "Look, doesn't it look like a watch?" She proudly showed off her work. "When we were young, Tang Feng and I always liked to bite each other's wrists. We said it was to give each other a watch. Now that I think about it, it was really silly." Ji Yuqi was suddenly excited and rambled on about many interesting things when they were young. She didn't notice that a certain man's face was getting darker and darker. At Songshu 566. Chapter 856. Don't say any more. Shinja suddenly pulled her into his embrace, his arms tightly wrapped around her waist, in an extremely domineering posture, encircling her. Ji Yuqi blinked in confusion and looked up at him. Suddenly, she met his dark eyes. The corners of his lips were straight, and he had an expression that said, "I'm very unhappy." She pouted, hugged his neck and shook it. "Young Master Shin, what are you angry about?" "I'm just unhappy. Very unhappy." Shinja frowned and said in an extremely childish voice. Ji Yuqi blinked. "Why? If you're unhappy, there must be a reason, right?" Shinja's brows were so tightly furrowed that they could almost squeeze a mosquito to death. He asked in an unfriendly tone, "Are you on good terms with Tang Feng?" Ji Yuqi's mind worked very quickly. Her eyes were smiling, and gradually, she burst out laughing. Aja, are you jealous? Is it because Tang Feng and I are childhood sweethearts, so you're jealous? The little girl in front of him had an expression of enjoyment on her face, and it made him feel an indescribable sense of grievance. He was exuding cold air, and his gaze was so cold that it made people tremble. He said stiffly, I'm jealous. What's so good about Tang Feng? You're not allowed to have any contact with him in the future. Okay, I won't have any contact with him. Ji Yuqi knew that a certain someone was angry, so she skillfully smoothed his hair. The smile on her delicate face was as bright as a blooming rose, and it made his heart palpitate. He couldn't help but lean down and kiss her lips. When Ji Yuqi returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock. She took a shower, changed into her pajamas, and planned to go to the kitchen to heat up a glass of milk. When she walked into the living room, she saw Yi Zisu swaying her waist as she walked in. Her big watery eyes were still full of lust, her lips were slightly red and swollen, and her neck was covered with little hickeys. At first glance, she knew that Jiang Tianhao had loved her very much. Sister Qiqi, it's so late. You're still awake? Yi Zisu shyly pulled at her collar, as if trying to cover the marks on her neck. Ji Yuqi's eyes moved slightly, and her tone was indifferent. Yes, why did you come back so late? Yi Zisu automatically interpreted her expression as jealousy. Her lips curled up into a shy smile, and she shyly stroked her hair. I went to Tianhao's company to see him, but I didn't expect him to. I'm sorry, Sister Qiqi. I shouldn't have mentioned him in front of you. Bitches were so pretentious. Seeing her pretentious look, Ji Yuqi almost spat out her dinner. The corner of her mouth twitched, and she expressionlessly said, It's late. Go to bed early. Good night. With that said, she didn't even look at her, and walked straight to the kitchen. Yi Zisu looked at her cold back and sneered. Humph. She was just a used shoe abandoned by Tianhao. Why was she pretending to be a cold and elegant goddess? She was Tianhao's true love. Other women could just step aside. Thinking about Jiang Tianhao's passion, Yi Zisu's pretty face couldn't help but heat up. Holding her aching waist, she slowly walked upstairs. When she pushed open the door, she didn't expect her mother to be sitting on the chair in her pajamas, staring at her with a frosty expression. Mom, it's so late. Why aren't you asleep yet? Yi Zisu guiltily put down her arms and quickly walked up to her. Chen Tingfang's gaze was as sharp as a knife, and she scanned her from head to toe. Yi Zisu awkwardly covered her neck. Chen Tingfang furrowed her brows in annoyance and said angrily, Don't be so secretive. Anyone can tell what you've done. What did I tell you? I told you not to have sex with that guy. Once a woman gives herself to a man, she's worthless. Don't you understand? You don't look like a rich young lady at all. Your Uncle Ji doesn't have a good impression of you to begin with, and you're still fooling around. Are you trying to make him hate you more and more so that he'll get rid of you sooner? Yi Zisu pursed her lips in dissatisfaction and muttered softly, Even if he doesn't hate me, I still have to get married. Mom, don't be so stubborn. A woman's youth only lasts a few years. If I don't enjoy love now, when I'm old, I won't have the capital to enjoy it even if I want to. Chen Tingfang's expression became uglier, and there were signs that she was going to flip out. Yi Zisu hurriedly hugged her arm and acted coquettishly. Mom, don't be angry. I promise I'll come back earlier in the future. I definitely won't be found out by Uncle Ji. Mom, don't be angry. You won't be pretty if you're angry. Don't be angry. Humph, I gave birth to such a disappointing daughter. It would be strange if I wasn't angry. Chen Tingfang poked her forehead with her finger. Her expression was still not good. You'd better be more careful in the future. Don't let anyone have anything against you. Don't kill anyone. As she said this, she glanced at her flat stomach. Yi Zisu's face turned red. She pouted playfully and said, I know, Mom. We've always taken protective measures. The scene in the underground parking lot suddenly flashed through her mind. At that time, Tianhao was in a hurry and didn't have time to take any protective measures. Fortunately, if it wasn't for her mother's reminder, she would have forgotten to take the morning after pill. After coaxing Chen Tingfang away with kind words, Yi Zhisu hurriedly took the morning after pill and comfortably soaked in the bathtub. While playing with the rose petals on the water, she thought about the matter between her and Jiang Tianhao. She was confident that Jiang Tianhao loved her. However, it wasn't a good idea to always have a vixen hanging around him. She had to think of a way to get Lin Shui away from him. It would be best if she could drive her out of their company. Yi Zhisu's thoughts were beautiful. She had no idea that the gap between her and Jiang Tianhao was getting bigger and bigger. Before Jiang Tianhao stepped into the office, he pinched the space between his eyebrows. On his handsome face, a gentle and elegant smile naturally appeared. "Good morning." He politely greeted the male colleague who was walking towards him. The male colleague gave him a strange smile and patted him on the shoulder. "You brat, you're really brave." Jiang Tianhao was confused. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Wang Xian, what do you mean by that?" The smile on Wang Xian's face became more and more strange. It looked a bit wretched. He winked at Jiang Tianhao and said in a strange voice, "Don't pretend. Everyone in the company knows. Brat, you're now a celebrity in the company." Jiang Tianhao's heart tightened. No matter how slow he was, he understood that Wang Xian's words were not good. Did he do something wrong? He felt uneasy. Just as he was about to continue asking, the director suddenly came out of the office. With a dark face, he stared coldly at him and said loudly, "Jiang Tianhao, come to my office." "Hee bro, go quickly. Your brother will light a candle for you." Wang Xian patted him on the shoulder and laughed gloatingly. Jiang Tianhao clenched his fists. He brushed past Wang Xian and walked towards the director's office. When he passed by Lin Shui's desk, she suddenly whispered, "Be careful." Her voice was so soft that Jiang Tianhao thought he was hallucinating. He subconsciously turned his head and caught the worried expression on Lin Shui's face. Seeing him turn his head, she quickly lowered her head. Her long eyelashes trembled rapidly and her fingers fluttered over the keyboard in a panic. Jiang Tianhao pursed his lips. He did not stop and walked quickly to the director's office. He knocked on the door and entered after getting permission. "Director, what can I do for you?" "Jiang Tianhao, what do you think our company is? How could you do such a shameless thing? I can't believe that a person with such low moral standing like you graduated from a famous university. Your matter has already reached the company's top management. If it weren't for me, you would have been fired." Director Gao Hong had just received a reprimanding call from the company's top management. He was fuming, and now he vented his anger on Jiang Tianhao without hesitation. Jiang Tianhao clenched his fists tightly. Gao Hong's incessant scolding rang in his ears. Blurry scenes kept flashing in his mind. There was mockery, abuse, humiliation, and beatings. Gradually, the scolding overlapped with the humiliation he had suffered. His handsome face was contorted with anger. There was a wild beast roaring in his heart. He could not help but rush forward. He slammed his hands on the table and roared, "Shut up!" Gao Hong had never seen such a frightening side of Jiang Tianhao. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with a ferocious light. His face was distorted and horrifying. Both his hands were on the desk, and his body was trembling slightly due to his anger. His entire body was emitting a violent aura, which made Gao Hong shudder. The office suddenly quieted down. It was eerily quiet. Jiang Tianhao and Gao Hong faced each other across the table. One was blinded by anger, and the other was stunned. The first one to react was Gao Hong. He coughed and put on a gentle face. He said slowly, "Little Jiang, calm down. I know you're also a victim. I also sympathize with you." After Jiang Tianhao calmed down, he was filled with regret. He could not control himself. He should not have done that. He bowed to Gao Hong and said respectfully, "I'm sorry, Director. I lost my composure just now. I'm very sorry. However, I would like to ask you to clarify what I did wrong." Gao Hong opened his mouth slowly. He wanted to say something, but in the end he did not say anything. He patted his shoulder and said, "All right, you're a young man who doesn't have anger. I don't blame you. Go back and take a look at the company's forum. You'll know what happened." Dongfang Real Estate Company had set up an internal communication forum. Here, there were often people gossiping about personal matters. For example, who was once a couple who was slept with, who got divorced, and so on. Jiang Tianhao had always felt that this kind of gossip was boring. He never paid attention to it. He did not expect that one day, he would become the one being gossiped about. The post with the big red title, "Violent Couple Having Car Sex, Looking Down on Passers-by," was pushed to the top of the forum. The post was posted with pictures of the car sex. Each picture was very hot. Even though the appearance of the man and woman could not be seen clearly, the company's colleagues were familiar with Jiang Tianhao. As long as they took a few more glances, they would be able to recognize him. Beauty novel Xingwu 799. Chapter 857. There were even people who recognized the woman who had sex with him in the car, and exposed Yi Zis's identity in the post. They also bragged about her past great achievements, such as her bad reputation at school, and how she had an ambiguous relationship with her cousin at Miss G's birthday party. Jiang Tianhao's brain exploded, and he felt all the blood in his body rushing to his head. His fingers trembled as he clicked on the mouse and quickly browsed through the content of the post. Sure enough, there were already many people scolding him for seducing a rich girl. There were also people who said that he was able to enter this company because of Yi Zisu. I thought he was a Prince Charming, but in the end he's actually a gigolo who relies on women to make a living. Oh, I'm so angry. Once someone stood up and scolded him for being a gigolo who relied on women to make a living. There were countless comments below. Jiang Tianhao felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His whole body was ice cold. He clenched his teeth tightly, and the taste of rust rose in his mouth. His fingers clenched the mouse so tightly that he almost crushed it. Gigolo, gigolo, and B** starred who relies on women to get to the top. These words were like a curse that drilled into his brain and repeated over and over again in his mind. He was almost driven crazy. DD, the employee's QQ rang twice. A chat box popped up. It was a message from Lin Shui. Tianhao, I know you're in a bad mood right now. I don't know how to comfort you. Forget it, I'll just say it. I believe in your character. You're definitely not the kind of person they say you are. Don't mind what others say. Do what you want to do, and you will definitely succeed. These words were like a ray of sunlight that pierced through the layers of haze and shone into Jiang Tianhao's frozen heart. He looked at the familiar profile picture in the chat box. She had used a real person's photo. Her youthful and beautiful face and dazzling smile made him feel like he was wrapped in warmth. His fingers froze on the keyboard as he stared at Shui Lin's photo. After a long time, he finally replied with 2 words, "Thank you." This day, for Jiang Tianhao, was a kind of torture. No matter where he went, he felt that his colleagues were pointing at him behind his back. It was only when it was almost time to get off work that he heaved a sigh of relief. However, he did not expect the director to throw him a document. "Little Jiang, this document is very important. Deal with it today and hand it to me at work tomorrow. Thank you for your hard work." Jiang Tianhao had no choice but to stay and work overtime. In the past, he thought that the director gave him everything because he valued him. However, after being scolded by the director in the office, he suddenly saw through the director's kind face. The director didn't value him. He was like a vampire who greedily sucked his blood and squeezed his value. Jiang Tianhao was filled with resentment, not only toward the company, but also toward the director himself. However, he had to complete the task given to him by his superior. The people in the office left one after another, leaving only 2 or 3 people working overtime. Jiang Tianhao had a headache as he sorted out the complicated data in the form. He was so busy that his head was in a mess. Unknowingly, the sky outside was already dark. His phone suddenly rang. He slid the mouse with one hand and grabbed the phone with the other. He did not have time to look at the caller ID. His tone was a little irritated. "Hello, who is this?" Yi Zisu was stunned. She had never heard Tianhao speak to her in such a tone. She was a little unhappy and said softly, "Tianhao, it's me. Where are you now? Let's have dinner together, okay?" Jiang Tianhao's fingers suddenly tightened around the phone. His anger seemed to have found a way out, and was about to burst out. He gritted his teeth and tried his best to suppress it. He said slowly, "No need. I'm working overtime." "Working overtime? Yi Zisu suddenly remembered that he had hugged Lin Shui. She quickly said, "Then you must not have eaten yet. I'll buy it and bring it to you." Jiang Tianhao closed his eyes and slowly opened them again. His voice was much gentler. "No need. I've already ordered takeout. Zisu, I'm a little busy right now. I'll call you when I get home, okay?" Yi Zisu said sullenly. "Oh." Before she could say anything else, Jiang Tianhao had already hung up the phone. The anger in her heart surged. Her suspicious nature as a woman made her firmly believe that Jiang Tianhao was working overtime with Lin Shui. She couldn't let that vixen mess with Tianhao's mind. She wanted Tianhao to remember her kindness at all times. Yesterday, she had given him a lunchbox. Wasn't he very happy and enthusiastic? Then she would try it again. Yi Zisu was full of confidence. Jiang Tianhao was in a terrible fix. After he had sorted out the data, he found that there were several loopholes in the file. If he had not checked it carefully, he would have been in big trouble. "Leave these details to me. Girls are always more meticulous." A slender hand reached in front of his computer screen and pointed at the mistakes in the electronic file. Jiang Tianhao looked up and saw Lin Shui's smiling face. She was not as pretty as Yi Zisu, nor as charming as Ji Yuqi, but she was so beautiful that it made people feel comfortable. She was like the girl next door, making people involuntarily want to get close to her. He smiled. "Okay, then I'll have to trouble you. I'll send you the electronic version through email. Don't mention it. You've helped me many times." Lin Shui stroked the hair by her ear and smiled cutely. "Then I'll go back. If there's anything else I can help you with, just let me know. Okay." He smiled. Lin Shui's cheeks turned red. She quickly turned around and walked back to her seat. Her delicate back was like a lively and cute little rabbit. Jiang Tianhao curled his lips, and a touch of warmth flashed across his deep eyes. The two of them worked together, so the efficiency was much higher. In less than half an hour, the documents were finished. Jiang Tianhao looked at his watch and smiled. "It's already so late. Let me treat you to a meal as a reward for helping me today." Lin Shui pouted cutely. "I already said you don't have to be so polite. You should go home early. Your girlfriend must still be waiting for you." Jiang Tianhao's smile changed slightly. He avoided talking about Yi Zisu and said gently, "It's just a meal. Don't tell me you won't do me the honor." Lin Shui's cheeks turned red again. She said softly, "I don't want your girlfriend to misunderstand." With that, she quickly turned around and picked up her handbag. With her back facing him, she lowered her head and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, "Well, in the future, you should eat less aphrodisiac supplements. It's not good for your body if you eat too much. Bye-bye." With that, she ran away in a panic as if she was being chased by a monster. She accidentally bumped into the chair at the next table. The chair was knocked 3 steps away. She bent over and held her knees. She was in so much pain that she almost cried. Jiang Tianhao quickly went forward and held her arm. He said anxiously, "Why are you so careless? Where did you bump into? Is it painful? I'll take you to the hospital." "No, no need." Lin Shui's cheeks were red. She didn't dare to look back at him. She pushed his hand away and struggled to stand up straight. She limped forward. Jiang Tianhao was amused by her stubborn personality. He took a few steps forward and held her waist firmly with both hands. He said in a low voice, "I'll take you home." The palm on her waist was hot. Lin Shui trembled slightly. Her cheeks were as red as a cooked crayfish. Even the tips of her ears were red. She struggled again, but his hands held her firmly. She couldn't break free. "Stop fooling around. I'll let you go when your leg recovers." His low and magnetic voice was right next to her ear. She lowered her head nervously and didn't dare to move. The two of them were silent the whole way. Jiang Tianhao helped her out of the office. He suddenly remembered what she said. Although her voice was soft, he heard it clearly. He coughed and said, "What did you mean by that?" Lin Shui said in a panic, "Nothing. Just pretend you didn't hear it." "How can I pretend I didn't hear it when I already heard it? I've never eaten any aphrodisiac supplements." A man's dignity was not to be doubted. He didn't need those things at all. His tone wasn't very good. Lin Shui was afraid that he would misunderstand, so she quickly explained, You left in a hurry with Miss Yi last night, and forgot to pack up the lunchbox. I was worried that the food inside would spoil tomorrow, so I took the initiative to throw it away for you. When I was cleaning it, I found the residue of deer penis in the chicken soup. Because my grandfather is an old Chinese doctor, I know a lot about Chinese medicine and supplements. Every medicine is 30% poisonous. You can't eat too much of those things. That's why I reminded you. I might have made a mistake. I'm sorry. Jiang Tianhao's hand on Lin Shui's waist suddenly tightened. She couldn't help but scream. He quickly loosened his grip. His heart was in turmoil. Deer penis? Great. That woman Yi Zissou actually put that kind of thing in the soup for him. He had only neglected her for a few days, and she couldn't wait anymore. No wonder it was like he was possessed last night. He couldn't control himself no matter what. So it was her doing. Yi Zissou, this woman must be his nemesis. Why did she always mess up his matters? Jiang Tianhao's hatred for Yi Zissou had already reached its peak. He only needed a breakthrough before it would erupt like a volcano. Suddenly, the sound of high heels could be heard in the empty corridor. A slim and beautiful figure slowly entered their line of sight. The sound of footsteps suddenly froze. Yi Zissou looked at the end of the corridor in disbelief. Jiang Tianhao, her fiancé, was actually hugging that vixen Lin Shui again. She bit her lip and her eyes quickly became misty. Tianhao, how could you do this to me? Jiang Tianhao was fed up with her pitiful face. Not only did he not let go of Lin Shui, he even pulled her into his arms and said lightly, Xiao Shui's leg is injured. I'm taking her home. Don't misunderstand. Yes, Miss Yi. There's really nothing between us. Lin Shui hurriedly pushed Jiang Tianhao's arm away, and limped 2 steps to the side to put some distance between her and Jiang Tianhao. Her eyes were clear as she stared at Yi Zissou, as if to say, I'm really not lying. Ad. Hongcha 866. Chapter 858. Yi Zissou herself was a little white flower who was good at pretending. She imagined all the delicate and pitiful girls to be little white flowers. Her eyes were filled with venom as she glared fiercely at Lin Shui. Lin Shui blinked and rubbed the corner of her clothes helplessly. She said softly, Miss Yi, you guys take your time chatting. I'll leave first. She dragged her injured leg and walked forward slowly. Yi Zissou stood in the same spot and stared at her without blinking. When Lin Shui walked to her side, she suddenly reached out her arm and slapped Lin Shui hard across the face. Slap. A crisp sound rang out. Lin Shui's head was slapped to the side by that slap. She staggered 2 steps and almost fell. Jiang Tianhao rushed forward and supported her steadily. This slap stunned Lin Shui. She didn't say a word as tears streamed down her face in a daze. Seeing her pitiful appearance, Jiang Tianhao was immediately enraged. All the disgust he had for Yi Zissou exploded. Without thinking, he slapped Yi Zissou across the face and said angrily, Are you crazy? Yi Zissou's face burned with pain. She covered her face in disbelief, and looked at Jiang Tianhao with teary eyes. Why you actually hit me? You actually hit me because of that vixen? Jiang Tianhao, I want to break up with you. After the slap, Jiang Tianhao regretted it. He reached out and wanted to hug her, but she pushed him away. She cried out, Jiang Tianhao, you're too much. I won't forgive you. With that, she turned and ran away. Jiang Tianhao instinctively chased after her, but just as he took a step forward, he stopped and stood stiffly in the same spot. He clenched his fists and let her run out of his sight and disappear into the elevator. Tianhao, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I caused a misunderstanding between the two of you. Hurry up and chase after Miss Yi and explain to her clearly. Lin Shui's worried voice was heard. Jiang Tianhao smiled bitterly. It's not your fault. She was too insensible. She's angry right now and won't listen to my explanation. He paused and turned to look at her. Xiao Shui, how's your leg? Shui Lin hurriedly said. It's okay now, I can go home by myself. You should go check on Miss Yi. It's very dangerous for a girl to be on the street so late at night. You're a girl too. Why aren't you worried about yourself? It's not safe for you to take a taxi alone. Jiang Tianhao deliberately wanted to give Yi Zissou the cold shoulder for a few days. Otherwise, that woman would really think that he was her servant and needed to please her at all times. Lin Shui still wanted to persuade him, but Jiang Tianhao raised his hand to stop her from continuing. He said faintly, "Don't say any more. I've already decided." "Oh," Lin Shui said sullenly. Her leg was actually fine now. She walked steadily beside him and said, "Tianhao, actually, it's very normal for girls to misunderstand. You just have to explain to her properly, and everything will be fine." Jiang Tianhao's lips tightened. He wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say it. He only said helplessly, "You won't understand what's going on between me and her." He did like Yi Zissou, but that kind of liking couldn't compare to the value of using her. Later on, all sorts of things happened, and that little bit of liking for her was obliterated. Now he only had disgust for her. However, he had no choice but to be perfunctory and pretend to be affectionate. After all, she still had value and he couldn't abandon her for the time being. Obviously, Yi Zissou still didn't know her position in Jiang Tianhao's heart. She thought that she had been hurt by him, so she had to put on airs and wait for him to coax her. She didn't expect that he would actually let her run away without any intention of chasing her. Yi Zissou was even more upset. She ran to the underground parking lot and hid in her car to cry. The more she thought about it, the sadder she felt. She thought that she had done so much for him, but he slapped her in the face for a wild woman. Next time, would he abandon her for a wild woman? She was filled with bitterness and wanted to find someone to vent her grievances to. But her former friends had long cut off contact with her. The boys who used to chase her had also left her. All that was left were just friends on the surface. There was no friendship to speak of. Just as Yi Zissou was heartbroken, someone suddenly knocked on her car window. She looked up with tears all over her face and saw a familiar handsome face. She lowered the car window and sobbed. "Yihan W, why are you here?" Xiao Yihan raised his eyebrows helplessly. He pulled out a clean handkerchief from his suit pocket and handed it to her. "My friend works in this building. We originally planned to go out together, but that guy had to work overtime at the last minute, so I had to leave first. I saw you running out of the elevator just now. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect it to really be you. It's so late. Why are you here?" Yi Zissou took the handkerchief and wiped the tears off her face. She said softly, "My fiancé works here too. He's also working overtime. I'm here to look for him." Xiao Yihan's handsome face had a concerned expression. "Do you mind telling me what happened? Why are you crying so sadly?" Because Chen Tingfang always wanted to set her up with Xiao Yihan. She felt a little awkward when he found out about her when she was down and out. She avoided his concerned gaze and mumbled, "It's nothing serious. We just had a small conflict." Xiao Yihan raised his eyebrows and did not pursue the matter. He changed the topic and said, "I originally planned to go to a bar to have a few drinks with my friends. Now that I'm the only one left, are you interested in joining me? Just treat it as keeping me company." Yi Zissou thought about it. Xiao Yihan had always been polite and trustworthy, so she agreed. The two of them went to a very quiet bar. Without being harassed by the prostitutes, the two of them sat at the bar and drank in silence. Yi Zissou did not know how many drinks she had until Xiao Yihan grabbed her glass and said, "Stop drinking. You're drunk." She looked at him foolishly. "I'm not drunk. I'm very sober. Tianhao, what's wrong with me? Why did you treat me like that?" She threw herself into his arms and wrapped her arms around his neck. She sobbed, "Tianhao, I love you so much. Why did you hurt me? What's so good about that vixen? Why did you help her and not me?" Sob, sob, sob. The people around them looked over curiously. Xiao Yihan sighed helplessly. He stretched out his hands stiffly and patted her back. "Don't cry. I'll take you home." "I don't want to go home." Yi Zissou suddenly flipped out and flung his arm away. She stood up shakily and pointed at Xiao Yihan's nose. "I don't want to see that B*TCHGUCHI. You make her disappear. It's all her fault that Tianhao and I ended up like this." Xiao Yihan blushed with shame. He quickly covered Yi Zissou's mouth and whispered, "My big miss, stop fooling around. Everyone is laughing at you. Be good. I'll take you home." Yi Zissou struggled with all her might. Xiao Yihan covered her mouth tightly. Then he grabbed her arm and took her out of the bar and into his car. Sister Chen, it's me. I'm outside the Ji family's house. Xiao Yihan glanced at Yi Zissou, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. He was drunk and unconscious. Zissou is drunk. She's in my car. Can you come over and pick her up? When Chen Tingfang received the call, she was already lying down to rest. She quickly got up. Ji Bowen also woke up and asked, "It's so late. Who called?" Chen Tingfang smiled. "It's Tianhao. He said that Zissou isn't feeling well. He sent Zissou downstairs and asked me to pick her up. Go back to sleep. I'll be back soon." Ji Bowen frowned unhappily. Zissou is getting out of hand. Why are you back so late? Okay. I'll teach her a lesson. We'll talk tomorrow. Go to sleep first. Chen Tingfang tied her hair up hastily. She changed into a dress and put on a cardigan over the dress. A black Hummer stopped by the road. Chen Tingfang tidied her hair and walked quickly to the car. Xiao Yihan leaned against the car. When he saw her figure, his eyes lit up and he called out happily, "Sister Chen." Chen Tingfang's cheeks were slightly hot. Ever since Xiao Yihan confessed to her that day, she hadn't contacted him. She didn't expect him to see her dressed casually and with messy hair. It was really awkward. She smiled. "Yihan, thank you for sending Zissou back. By the way, why are you with her?" Xiao Yihan smiled bitterly and briefly told her about meeting Yi Zissou. Chen Tingfang had an idea in her heart. She guessed that Jiang Tianhao must have done something to let Zissou down. She was angry and hated her daughter for being so useless. However, the expression on her face didn't change. She was like an elder talking to a junior. She said gently, "Yihan, thank you so much for today. Zissou was drunk and must have said a lot of nonsense. You don't have to take it to heart. It's very late, so I won't disturb you. You should go home and rest." Xiao Yihan smiled bitterly. "Sister Chen, must you talk to me so estranged? Did my confession make you feel pressured? Don't worry, I never expected to get a response from you." After he finished speaking, he didn't look at Chen Tingfang anymore. He opened the front passenger door and helped Yi Zissou out of the car. He said in a low voice, "I'll send Zissou to the door." "Okay, sorry to trouble you." Chen Tingfang quietly followed behind him. They didn't say another word until they reached the door. With the help of the servant, Chen Tingfang helped Yi Zissou upstairs. The servant wiped Yi Zissou's body. She walked to the window and looked out. Under the dim light, a figure stood tall and straight like a pine tree. Even though she couldn't see his face clearly, she knew that he must be looking in her direction. She stood there in a daze for a long time. She didn't even know when the servant left. Xiao Yihan, who was outside the window, also stood there for a long time. She looked at the lit window and the figure hiding behind the window. Then she raised her eyebrows, opened the car door and drove away. The car disappeared into the darkness. Chen Tingfang suddenly felt a little disappointed. It was as if something was different. In the morning, Ji Yuqi was woken up by her phone ringing. Add Hongcha 866. Chapter 859. She fumbled for her phone with her eyes closed, and put it to her ear. "Hello, who is this?" Shinja's deep laughter rang in her ear. "Are you still asleep?" Ji Yuqi turned over and mumbled unhappily. "Aja, you're so annoying. You woke me up so early." His laughter was filled with joy, like the spring breeze that caressed one's face, making one feel comfortable. "Didn't we agree to watch the sunrise together?" "Lazy cat. Are you trying to be lazy again?" "No, I'm getting up now." At the mention of watching the sunrise, Ji Yuqi immediately opened her eyes and sat up. Full of vigor, she said, "I'm up. I'm full of energy. I'll show you my superhuman speed. See you outside the park in 10 minutes. After ending the call, Ji Yuqi rushed to the bathroom with her hair in a mess. She finished her usual half-hour homework in 10 minutes, and was holding a pair of sports shoes and a sun hat before she left. The sky was overcast. The sun hadn't risen yet, and the whole family hadn't woken up yet. The living room was very quiet. Ji Yuqi, the primordial Qi Xiao girl, quietly slipped out of the front door and ran all the way to the small park nearby. It only took her 2 minutes. There was a silver Bentley parked outside the park. The handsome Shenja stood in front of the car and gazed at the girl who was getting closer and closer to him. She was wearing a short sportswear that revealed her fair arms and calves. Her fluffy curly hair was combed into a bun, and 2 strands of hair dangled by her ears. She was as fresh and beautiful as an apple that made people want to take a bite. Shenja had always been a man of action. When Ji Yuqi threw herself at him, he naturally wrapped his arms around her waist and gave her a passionate morning kiss. After a long while, Ji Yuqi pushed the satisfied man away and complained softly, "Let's go. If we don't go now, not only will we not see the sunrise, we'll also be exposed to the sun." "Okay, I'll listen to you." Shenja pinched her tender cheeks and held her hand as they walked up the mountain. The Ji family's villa was built halfway up the mountain, and they planned to climb to the top to watch the sunrise. It would take more than half an hour to walk up the mountain. After more than half a year of physical training, this amount of exercise was nothing to Ji Yuqi. She and Shenja chatted and laughed as they climbed to the top of the mountain. "Chichi, come here. The view is better here." Shenja had his back to the cliff and stretched his arm out to Ji Yuqi with a gentle smile on his handsome face. Ji Yuqi's face was slightly pale. The memories of her previous life were still fresh in her mind. It was on the cliff that Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zissou had revealed their true colors and pushed her down the cliff together. Her fingers that were hanging by the sides of her legs slowly clenched. Her feet felt as if they were bound by a 1,000-pound iron ball. She wanted to move forward, but she couldn't. "Chichi." Shenja keenly noticed her strange behavior and quickly walked to her. His slightly cold fingertips touched her cold cheeks. "What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" Ji Yuqi bit her lips and shook her head. Her voice was hoarse. "I'm fine. If you don't like it here, let's go somewhere else. How about the beach?" Shenja put his arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. "No, it's right here. I want to step over it." Ji Yuqi had chosen the place to watch the sunrise. She wanted to force herself to overcome the psychological barriers of the past and the fears of her previous life. She wanted to live in the present. She was Ji Yuqi, the Ji Yuqi who had been reborn and would no longer be controlled by that B***tch. She gritted her teeth and her eyes gradually became firm and proud. She withdrew from Shenja's embrace and walked up the cliff with her head held high. Then she took the first step. She leaned against the railing and looked at the surrounding sea of clouds and rugged mountain peaks. The fear hidden deep in her heart disappeared little by little, leaving behind a lofty ambition to look down on the world. Shenja hugged her from behind and stood with her on the peak of the mountain. They looked at the sun breaking through the clouds and shining its light on the earth. Their hearts were tightly pressed together. "Chichi." "Yes. I like you." "Yes." Shenja was gloomy. "You should say that I like you too." Ji Yuqi looked up at him and smiled. "I thought you already knew. It's always different if I say it out loud." Shenja was even more gloomy. The book said that women despised men for being too cold and passionate. They always kept their love in their hearts and were unwilling to say it out loud. Why was it that when it came to them, he could not wait to say it out loud, while Chichi was not romantic at all? Ji Yuqi readily accepted his advice and blinked. "Oh, okay then. I like you," Shenja complained, so perfunctory. Ji Yuqi laughed and put her hands around his neck. She kissed him on the lips and blinked. "I'm very sincere. Little girl, marry me." "Okay, I'm yours in the future." Shenja did not have any moral integrity and said shamelessly. Ji Yuqi was defeated by his shamelessness. She buried her head in his chest, shrugged her shoulders and burst into laughter. Ji Yuqi was in a good mood when she came down from the mountain. After kissing Shenja goodbye, she ran all the way home and saw Yi Zissou squatting in the garden. She was wearing a long white dress and her hair was draped over her shoulders. There was a touch of sadness on her beautiful face, and she was holding a rose in her right hand. The scene was similar to Lin Daiyu's burial of flowers. Ji Yuqi did not know why she was here. Ji Yuqi raised her eyebrows with interest and greeted her with a half-smile. "Zissou, why are you holding a rose in a daze?" Yi Zissou seemed to wake up from a dream. She let go of the rose in a panic and smiled shyly. "Nothing, Sister Chichi." I heard from my classmates that Gu Fifan is pursuing you. Are you two dating? Jiyuchi narrowed her eyes. Was this a heart-to-heart talk between sisters? Or was she trying to test whether she was still interested in Jiang Tianhao? With this thought, her expression changed. Her eyebrows seemed to be shrouded in a layer of sadness and her voice was bleak. Gu Fifan is indeed very outstanding, but he is not the right person for me. Yi Zixu pursed her lips and said timidly, could it be that sister still likes Tianhao and still blames me for snatching him away? Jiyuchi turned around and did not look at her anymore. It seemed that she would cry if she looked at her again. What you miss will always be missed. Zixu, you have to cherish the happiness you have now. After saying that, she walked straight to the door. After taking a few steps, she suddenly stopped and turned back to look at Zixu. Zixu, I noticed that you seem to have put on weight recently, especially your belly. You'd better be more careful. Guys like skinny girls. Yi Zixu, who loved to look beautiful, touched her cheeks in a panic and lowered her head to touch her belly. She did not know if it was a psychological effect or something else, but she felt that her belly was not as flat as before. She secretly gritted her teeth. She must eat less to maintain her beautiful figure. She could not let Tianhao dislike her. Tianhao, thinking about him, Yi Zixu felt sad again. Yesterday, in a moment of anger, she said that she wanted to break up with him. She regretted it very much, but she did not want to put down her pride and ask for his forgiveness. She waited for his call and explanation all morning, but there was not even a text. She was so angry that she almost suffered internal injuries. Yi Zixu returned to her room unhappily. In the living room, she met Chen Tingfang and was lectured by her again. She said that it was dangerous for a girl to drink outside in the middle of the night, and that it was lucky that Xiao Yihan sent her home. After being lectured for more than 10 minutes, Yi Zixu felt more and more depressed. Finally, she could not help but flip out. Her voice was shrill as she shouted, "Okay, stop talking. I know I was wrong. Everything is my fault, okay?" She left the shocked Chen Tingfang and ran upstairs. "Senior, did you and Zixu have a fight? I think she's very sad." Jiyuchi's room door was not locked. There was a crack in the door, so Yi Zixu naturally heard her voice on the phone. Yi Zixu stopped in her tracks. She hid behind the wall and listened carefully. "Senior, I know I shouldn't interfere with what's going on between the two of you, but I don't want to see Zixu sad. After all, she's my little sister. Who wants your fake kindness?" Yi Zixu pursed her lips in disdain. The voice in the room continued, "Okay then, let's talk when we meet. At noon. I'll wait for you." After the call ended, the sound of Jiyuchi moving around could be heard from the room, followed by the sound of the bathroom door closing. Yi Zixu clenched her fists in hatred. Damn it, Jiyuchi actually took the opportunity to get close to Tianhao. I won't let her have her way. At breakfast, only Chen Tingfang and her daughter, Jiyuchi and her brother were present. Ji Bowen had already left for the office. The four of them gathered at the dining table, and the atmosphere was a little strange. Yi Zixu habitually picked up a glass of milk and drank a few mouthfuls. Something seemed to be churning in her stomach, and waves of nausea washed over her. She quickly covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom. Chen Tingfang frowned. An ominous premonition welled up in her heart. Jiyuchi glanced in the direction of the bathroom, and the corners of her lips turned up. Perhaps the child named Chun, or from her previous life, would be born early this time. Then her efforts to replace Yi Zixu's birth control pills with vitamins had not been in vain. In the bathroom, Yi Zixu leaned over the toilet bowl and vomited in a sorry state. It wasn't until she had vomited everything in her stomach, including the yellow bile, that she felt a little better. She leaned on the sink and looked at her sorry self in the mirror. Suddenly, Jiyuchi's voice rang out in her head. "Zixu, I noticed that you've gotten fatter recently, especially your belly." Yi Zixu's pupils constricted. She touched her belly in horror. Vomiting, fat belly. Could it be that she was pregnant? Yi Zixu was extremely flustered. She thought about it carefully. On the night of the graduation party, Tianhao was drunk and forgot to wear a condom. She also couldn't remember whether she had taken the morning after pill or not. Calculating again, her menstrual cycle was already half a month late. Could it be that she was really pregnant? Knock knock. The sound of knocking on the door interrupted her wild thoughts. She quickly tidied her hair and opened the door. Mom. Chen Tingfang darted in and locked the door. With a cold expression, she asked, "What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell, or are you pregnant?" Yi Zisu's heart thumped. She squeezed out a smile. "Mom, don't make wild guesses. Maybe I drank too much last night, and my stomach is a little uncomfortable." Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 860. Chen Tingfang's expression softened, and she said earnestly, "Zisu, Mom is doing this for your own good. Don't entrust your everything to a man. Men are unreliable. You have to be careful." Yi Zisu said pitifully, "Mom, I know. I'm not feeling well. I want to go upstairs and lie down for a while." "Okay, go ahead. I'll ask Dr. Gao to come over." "It's okay. I'll be fine after a nap." Yi Zisu was worried that if she was really pregnant, it would be bad if Dr. Gao found out. This was a high-end and quiet restaurant. Even during the peak lunch hour, there was no hustle and bustle. Jiang Tianhao took the menu from the waiter and handed it to Ji Yuqi in a gentlemanly manner, allowing her to order first. After ordering, Ji Yuqi took a sip of tea and smiled. "Senior, how are you getting used to living at Oriental Real Estate?" Jiang Tianhao's gaze was complicated, and his voice was low. "It's okay." His pride did not allow him to complain to her. Ji Yuqi pretended not to notice, and the smile on her face became brighter. She teased, "That's good. I was worried that someone as outstanding as Senior would be ostracized by his colleagues." He smiled, but his smile was a little unnatural. He took a sip of tea and changed the topic. "You shouldn't worry about me and Zisu. I don't know how to get along with her anymore. Thinking about it, it's better for both of us to calm down." His slender fingers caressed the fine porcelain teacup. His eyes were dim, and his tone was bleak. He sounded like he was hurt by love, but also like he had no choice. It really made one want to comfort him. Of course, Ji Yuqi could not disappoint him. She said gently, "Senior, although I don't know what happened between the two of you, I know that Zisu loves you very much. If there's any conflict between the two of you can talk it out and resolve it. If you keep ignoring Zisu like this, she might misunderstand. I heard from the servants that Zisu drank a lot last night. Fortunately, Xiao Yihan sent her back. Otherwise, it would be dangerous for a girl to be outside alone." Jiang Tianhao frowned. "Xiao Yihan?" Ji Yuqi nodded. "Yes, didn't Zisu mention it to you? Xiao Yihan is Auntie Chen's best friend. He also has a good relationship with Zisu. When he came to our house to pick up Zisu, I saw him once. He's quite handsome. I heard that his family background is also very good." She cleverly stopped talking and changed the topic. "Why are the dishes so slow? I'm a little hungry." Jiang Tianhao felt very uncomfortable. He felt like he had been betrayed. That Xiao Yihan, Yi Zisu had never mentioned it to him. Could she be feeling guilty? He suppressed the suspicion in his heart and looked at Ji Yuqi, who was pouting and complaining. He could not help but smile. "Don't worry, it'll be here soon." Just as he said, the dishes were served very quickly. Jiang Tianhao considerately scooped soup for her and picked up food for her. The two of them chatted and laughed softly. From afar, they looked like a sweet and warm couple. In addition, the two of them were very good-looking and attracted a lot of attention. Unfortunately, this warm and harmonious scene was quickly broken by someone. "You, how can you treat me like this?" A pure and delicate girl in a white dress suddenly walked in front of them. Her beautiful face was filled with sadness, and her pair of beautiful big eyes were filled with tears. She looked at them pitifully, like a little white flower that had been abandoned. The people around them automatically imagined that the girl in the white dress had been betrayed by her boyfriend and best friend. They looked at Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zisu with envy and condemnation. Jiang Tianhao's hand that was picking up food for Ji Yuqi stiffened. Ji Yuqi calmly wiped the corner of her mouth and slowly raised her head, revealing a gentle smile. "Zisu, you came at the right time. Senior has already explained to me that the girl you met last night is only his colleague. There has been a misunderstanding between you two, so you must resolve it in time." Everyone suddenly realized that the girl was kindly helping her best friend solve her relationship problems. As for the girl named Zissou, she was too paranoid. She misunderstood her boyfriend at every turn. Zissou noticed that the people around them were looking at her differently. She bit her lip, adjusted her facial expression, and smiled slightly. So that's how it is. I'm sorry, Sister Qiqi. I misunderstood you. Then she gracefully sat beside Jiang Tianhao and said softly, Tianhao, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you last night. In public, Jiang Tianhao naturally couldn't embarrass her. He walked down the stairs she gave him and said warmly, I also did something wrong. Fortunately, Yuqi is willing to help us resolve the misunderstanding. We have to thank her properly. Okay. Zissou nodded vigorously and smiled at Yuqi. Sister Qiqi, thank you. You're welcome. I'm happy as long as you two make up. Yuqi winked playfully. I'm already full, so I won't be a third wheel. You two take your time. Yuqi didn't care about the two's attempts to persuade her to stay and left. When she walked out of the street, she glanced through the window at Jiang Tianhao and Zissou, who were sitting opposite each other in silence. Her lips curled into a malicious smile. Ha! After so many arguments, these two are about to collapse. After Yuqi left, the atmosphere became a little awkward. Jiang Tianhao was silent. He brought a new set of chopsticks for Zissou and scooped a bowl of soup for her. He gently placed it in front of her, and still didn't say a word. Zissou didn't intend to be the first to give in, but she didn't expect Yuqi to take advantage of the situation. This made her feel a great sense of crisis. She decided to firmly control Jiang Tianhao in her hands. And the best way for a woman to control a man was to have children. She gently held his hand. Her pure and beautiful face looked shy and happy at the same time. She looked at him affectionately with her big, watery eyes and said softly, Tianhao, I want to tell you a piece of good news. Jiang Tianhao pursed his lips and said coldly, What good news? Her long eyelashes fluttered and she quickly glanced at him. Then she lowered her eyes and said softly, I'm pregnant. Clang. The teacup beside Jiang Tianhao's hand was knocked over, and the tea spilled all over the table. He suddenly grasped her hand tightly and his eyes darkened. What did you say? Zissou's heart clenched. What kind of reaction was this? Did he not want to have children with her? She bit her lip, leaving teeth marks on it. She repeated softly, I said I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant with your child. His fingers tightened around her wrist as if he was going to crush her bones. She cried out in pain and her eyes became misty. She looked pitiful. It hurts, Tianhao. Aren't you happy that I'm pregnant with your child? Jiang Tianhao woke up abruptly and let go of her wrist. Seeing that there were a few clear fingerprints on her fair skin, he said apologetically, I'm sorry. I was just too surprised. He held her wrist and gently rubbed the fingerprints on it. He said gently, Zissou, don't worry. I'll take responsibility. When you graduate, we'll get married. Zissou bit her lip. Her eyes were probing as she asked softly, Then what about this child? Jiang Tianhao's expression froze. After deliberating for a while, he stared into her eyes and said slowly, Zissou, when we get married in the future, we can have as many babies as we want. But let's give up on this child, okay? Zissou widened her eyes in disbelief and shouted emotionally, You said before that if we had a child, it would be good to have it. Why are you changing your mind now? Is it because your feelings for me have changed? Her sudden raised voice attracted the attention of the people around them. Everyone looked at Jiang Tianhao. Their eyes were full of condemnation and disdain, as if he was a scumbag who had abandoned her after having sex with her. Jiang Tianhao felt like he was sitting on pins and needles with so many pairs of eyes staring at him. He helplessly reminded Zissou to keep her voice down. He held her hand and said softly, Let's talk outside. No, you have to make it clear. Zissou was furious. She completely ignored the current situation and held on to Jiang Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao's temper flared when he failed to persuade her nicely. He felt that she was embarrassing him and trampling on his manly dignity. With a gloomy face, he called the waiter over to settle the bill. Then he grabbed her wrist and forcefully dragged her out of the restaurant. When they finally found a secluded place, Jiang Tianhao flung her hand away. His face was ashen as he growled in a low voice. When did you become so insensible? Do you really want to embarrass everyone before you stop? Yi Zisa sobbed. Her face was full of tears. She shouted back aggrieved. Why are you so fierce? Do you think I want to get pregnant? Do you think I want a child at such a young age? Isn't it all because of you? You dislike me now. You hate me and want to break up with me. That's why you don't like me in any way, right? Jiang Tianhao pinched the space between his eyebrows in frustration. Seeing Yi Zisa sobbing so heartbroken, he didn't feel any pity for her. All that was left in his heart was irritation and irritation. Jiang Tianhao closed his eyes to hide the complex emotions in them. He slowly opened them again. Holding her shoulders with both hands, he said gently, Zisu, where did you get these wild thoughts from? How could I abandon you? Listen to my explanation. I don't want to keep this child because we're both too young, especially you. You haven't graduated from university. If people find out that you're pregnant before marriage, it'll damage your reputation. I made this decision for your own good. Yi Zisa looked up with teary eyes and said pitifully, but I can't bear to part with this child. He's the product of our love. There are many university students getting married and having children now. Tianhao, as long as you're always by my side, I won't care even if people laugh at me. Jiang Tianhao's eyebrows twitched. University students getting married and having children? She was hinting at him to get married quickly. His mind worked quickly. He knew that the chances of persuading her were very small, so he might as well calm her down first. Besides, Chen Tingfang would never allow her to have a child. Welfare Xingwu 799. Chapter 861. He gently wiped away her tears and said softly, Let's talk about the child slowly. Don't cry. Your eyes will swell up if you keep crying. Yi Zisa didn't say anything else. She had her own plans. It didn't matter if she had a child or not. What was important was to use this opportunity to force Tianhao to marry her. Abort it, abort it. Abort the child right now. Jiang Tianhao played tricks and passed the news of Yi Zisa's pregnancy to Chen Tingfang. When Chen Tingfang found out, she was furious. She wanted to stuff her disappointing daughter back into her womb and have another baby. Mom, I beg you. Let me keep the child. Yi Zisa shook her arm with tears streaming down her face. Mom, this child is your grandson. Can you bear to do this? Chen Tingfang flung her hand away and said angrily, If he were married and had a child, I would definitely dote on him. But his parents are so disappointing that he doesn't even have the right to be born now. She poked Yi Zisa's nose with her finger and said fiercely, You brat. I've spoiled you since you were young, haven't I? How many times have I told you not to sleep with anyone casually? Even if you have sex, you have to take protective measures. Look at you. When did you listen to me? Ha. Mom. Yi Zisa called out softly. Her tears flowed even more fiercely. Her big eyes were full of pleading. Mom, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have disobeyed you. But the child is innocent. He's still so young. I can't bear to abandon him. Mom, I beg you. Let me keep the child. As long as I marry Tianhao now, the child will be a legitimate child. Mom, I beg you. Please talk to Uncle Ji and ask him to agree to our marriage ahead of schedule. What sins did I commit in my past life to give birth to such a troublemaker like you? Although Chen Tingfang scolded her, she still felt sorry for her daughter. She frowned and said, Are you really going to marry Jiang Tianhao? Yi Zisa nodded hurriedly. I won't marry anyone but him in this life. Chen Tingfang knocked hard on her forehead and said angrily, Good for nothing. How many times have I told you that Jiang Tianhao isn't the right person for you? Look at him. One moment he's flirting with Ji Yuqi, and the next moment, he's having an ambiguous relationship with a female colleague. Last time, he even hit you because of that female colleague. A person like him who's full of tricks won't spend the rest of his life with you. Yi Zisa's eyes reddened again. She felt very uncomfortable, but she couldn't help but defend Jiang Tianhao. Mom, don't talk about him like that. He and Ji Yuqi are just acting. It's not like you don't know that if it weren't for Ji Yuqi, Tianhao wouldn't have been able to work at Dongfang Real Estate. and he wouldn't have been able to enter G Group in the future. As for that female colleague, he just joined the company, so of course he has to build a good relationship with his colleagues. Actually, that night, that woman's leg was injured, so Tianhao helped her. I misunderstood him. It's only right that I'm angry. Chen Tingfang shook her head and sighed. You're hopeless. Your brain is filled with Jiang Tianhao. No matter what, I won't agree to you marrying him, and I definitely won't agree to you keeping the child. Zissou, your mom's only daughter. Mom won't harm you. I'm doing this for your future happiness. Be good and abort the child. You're still young. You can have as many children as you want in the future. She didn't expect that after saying so much, her mother still wouldn't agree to her keeping the child. Yi Zissou was heartbroken. She screamed desperately, Mom, I just want to marry Tianhao. If you don't agree, I'll go look for Uncle Ji. I'll beg him. She ran to the door like a madwoman. Chen Tingfang's face darkened. She shouted, Stop right there. If you dare to walk out of this door, don't be my daughter. Yi Zissou stopped in her tracks. She froze on the spot. Her back was slightly arched. She buried her head and cried heartbroken. Her tears fell like a broken string of beads. She clenched her fists and said word by word, Mom, don't force me. Chen Tingfang's heart ached and she was frustrated. Why couldn't her daughter understand her painstaking efforts? However, for her daughter's future, she still put on a cold and heartless expression. I mean what I say. If you insist on keeping the child, don't acknowledge me as your mother. I'll treat it as if I've never given birth to a daughter like you. Yi Zissou's sharp nails dug into her palms. Her frail shoulders trembled. She stood stiffly on the spot. After a long time, she suddenly turned around. Her eyes were cold as she said expressionlessly, I'll abort the child. Are you satisfied, Mom? Zissou. Chen Tingfang's heart ached. She couldn't help but walk towards her. Yi Zissou's eyes were cold. Her entire body exuded a faintly discernible dark aura. She glanced coldly at Chen Tingfang, turned around and left. The door closed with a bang, startling Chen Tingfang. The room was empty, just like her heart at that moment. Yi Zissou, dressed in a white dress, floated eerily across the corridor. The cleaning servants in the corridor shivered and felt an inexplicable chill. Ji Yuqi eavesdropped on the conversation between Chen Tingfang and her daughter. She stood in front of the window, her right hand propping up her chin. She smiled as she watched Yi Zissou float out of the courtyard like a ghost. She muttered to herself, Oh, the little white flower has turned black. She's probably going to find the scumbag to take responsibility now. She leisurely picked up her phone. After the other party picked up the call, she smiled and said, The show is about to begin, dear, in the car. Yi Zissou muttered to herself, I will use my own methods to protect the man I love. She gripped the steering wheel tightly with both hands. Her cold gaze stared ahead of her. She stepped on the accelerator and sped off at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, in the director's office of the Oriental Real Estate Design Department, Director Gao Hong threw a report letter in front of Lin Shui. He said angrily, What's wrong with all of you? First it was Jiang Tianhao. Now it's you. Lin Shui, you're a girl. How can you not know how to love yourself? You actually seduced a married man. Now his wife has sent the report letter to the company's executives, demanding that the company must fire you. What do you think you should do? Lin Shui was so scared that her face turned pale. Tears welled up in her eyes. She said helplessly, Director, I didn't do it. I really don't know what's going on. Director, you must believe me. What's the use of me believing you? Now the whole company knows that you seduced another woman's husband. Even the president himself said that employees who damage the company's image must be fired. Lin Shui, hand over your work today. Gao Hong waved his hand impatiently. Once you've handed over your work, you don't have to come tomorrow. Lin Shui still wanted to plead, but Gao Hong was already annoyed. He waved his hand and asked her to leave. She pushed the door open and walked out with a heart as dead as ashes. She didn't dare to look at the mocking and contemptuous expressions of her colleagues. She covered her face and ran to the bathroom, crying loudly. The colleagues in the office whispered about Lin Shui's improper behavior. They said that she was a vixen who seduced a married man. Jiang Tianhao heard their mocking laughter from time to time. The forum was also crazily refreshed with this news. He clenched his hands. He wanted to shut those people up, but he couldn't anger them. He could only watch helplessly as Lin Shui ran wildly with a broken face. He gritted his teeth and finally couldn't help but follow her out. The suppressed sobs of a woman came from the female bathroom. Jiang Tianhao stood outside the bathroom door, not knowing whether to enter or leave. Fortunately, no one came at this time. Otherwise, if they saw him, they would call him a pervert. After waiting for 5 or 6 minutes, Lin Shui came out of the bathroom with red and swollen eyes. When she saw him, she immediately lowered her head, like a frightened rabbit. Jiang Tianhao, who had always been eloquent, was suddenly at a loss for words. He didn't know how to comfort her. After a moment of silence, he said gently, "I believe that you're innocent." Lin Shui's tears rolled down again. She sobbed, "Thank you." Jiang Tianhao handed her a tissue. "Don't be sad. I think that there might be some misunderstanding. Do you want to talk to the director again?" Lin Shui shook her head sadly. "There's no need. The so-called evidence is right in front of them. They won't listen to my explanation." She lowered her head and brushed past him with a disheartened heart. She muttered to herself, "I really don't know who I've offended. Why did they have to do this to me?" She was just talking to herself, but Jiang Tianhao's heart trembled. Her thin and weak back was shrouded by a thick sadness. She was like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind, destined to sink into the mud. Seeing her was like seeing himself in the past. He was weak, incompetent, and bullied by others. Reality was cruel. If you couldn't stand at the top, you could only look up to others forever. That was why he wanted to climb to the top of power at all costs. Jiang Tianhao clenched his fists and watched her leave. Her words suddenly echoed in his ears. "Who did you offend?" Lin Shui had always been obedient. If he had to say who she had offended recently, it could only be her. His pupils suddenly shrank and his eyes darkened. His phone suddenly rang. Seeing the name of the caller ID, Jiang Tianhao's deep eyes flashed with disgust. He slowly pressed the answer button. Yi Zis's voice traveled into his ears. "Tianhao, let's talk. We're on the rooftop of your company building." On the spacious rooftop, Yi Zisu leaned against the railing and looked at the bustling city expressionlessly. Occasionally, a few birds flew by in the gray sky. Cars shuttled back and forth on the road. All kinds of people were as small as ants, busy and silent. It made her feel lonely for no reason. Steady footsteps came from behind her. She turned around and a beautiful smile bloomed on her lips. "Tianhao, you're here." Jiang Tianhao stood 3 steps away from her. His handsome face was indifferent and emotionless. His tall and proud posture was like an unsheathed sword, and his cold aura rushed toward her. He stared into her eyes and said in a low voice, suppressing his anger, "Did you report Lin Shui for seducing a married man?" "Of course not. I don't know what you're talking about." Even though she denied it, Yi Zisu still clenched her fingers guiltily and glanced to the side unnaturally. Attention, Xingwu 799. Chapter 862. Who was Jiang Tianhao? After dating her for so long, how could he not tell that she was feeling guilty? His anger swelled as he strode forward and grabbed her wrist. Gritting his teeth, he said, "You're still lying, Yi Zisu. How can you be so vicious? What did Lin Shui do to you that you have to treat her like this? She's just a weak woman. You actually ruined her reputation and caused her to lose her job. What do you want her to do in the future?" He didn't have the slightest bit of pity as he held her wrist tightly, almost crushing her bones. She was in pain and angry. She couldn't understand why they didn't punish Lin Shui until today after she sent the letter anonymously to the Eastern Real Estate Company. But it didn't matter. As long as that vixen couldn't stay there any longer, it was fine. She sobbed sadly. "Tianhao, how can you say that about me? I've never done that kind of thing. That night when I saw you two being so intimate, I was really angry. But you also explained that there was nothing going on between you two. I know I misunderstood you too, and I still blame myself. I originally wanted to find a chance to apologize to Shui Lin. You actually misunderstood me and harmed her. You've made me so sad. I'm so sad. She sobbed, thinking that her acting was brilliant, but she missed the look of disgust in Jiang Tianhao's eyes. He slowly released her fingers and coldly took 2 steps back. He calmly interrupted her, crying. Why did you come to see me today? Seeing that he was no longer entangled in Lin Shui's matters, Yi Zisu secretly sighed in relief. She lifted her tear-stained face and smiled tenderly. Tianhao, in order to let our baby have a complete family, let's get married. Jiang Tianhao frowned and quickly relaxed. Zisu, you haven't graduated yet. You should focus on your studies. Moreover, my career has just started. I can't give you and the baby a stable life. It's really not the right time to talk about marriage. Yi Zisu's expression changed. Her voice was urgent and sharp. Are you unwilling to marry me? Was her mother right? Once a girl gave herself to a man, she was worthless? Jiang Tianhao's tone was a little impatient. Of course I'm willing to marry you, but the time isn't right yet. Don't forget what our goal is. If we get married early, we'll only push Ji Yuqi further and further away. Without her help, I won't even be able to enter the Ji group. For the first time, Jiang Tianhao regretted provoking such a stupid, incompetent, and vicious woman like Yi Zisu. Other than being jealous and dealing with her love rival, what other abilities did she have? She wasn't as smart and beautiful as Yuqi, nor was she as pure and cute as Lin Shui. He really didn't know why he fell in love with her in the first place. Yi Zisu didn't understand the complex emotions in his eyes. She quickly walked forward and grabbed his arm tightly as if she was afraid he would run away. She said anxiously, we can hide it from Ji Yuqi and get the marriage certificate first. Isn't she very obedient to you now? As long as you say something, she'll definitely believe you. Tianhao, I already have a baby. Even if you don't think for me, you have to think for the baby. Do you want him to be called an illegitimate child the moment he's born? Jiang Tianhao's eyebrows twitched. He never intended to keep this child. He suppressed his annoyance and continued to appease her. Zisu, you don't understand. My current situation in the company isn't very good. If I can't make a career for myself, even if Ji Yuqi pleads for me, Ji Bowen won't allow me to enter the Ji group. Don't you understand? What's important isn't Ji Yuqi but Ji Bowen. The decision-making power is in his hands. Yi Zisu, who had been holding back for a long time, finally lost her temper. She vented all the anger that had accumulated in her chest. She flung his hand away and said loudly, since Ji Yuqi isn't important, why are you still entangled with her? Jiang Tianhao, have you been using me as a springboard to get close to her from the beginning? As soon as the words left her mouth, both of them were stunned. Yi Zisu only blurted it out in a moment of anger. When she saw Jiang Tianhao's ashen face, she realized that she had made a big mistake. She hurriedly grabbed his hand and said, I'm sorry. I was just too angry You're right. Jiang Tianhao avoided her hand and coldly interrupted her. I used you to get close to her. Since I'm a despicable person in your eyes, there's nothing more to say between us. Let's break up. Let's break up. Those 3 words sent Yi Zisu straight to hell. She stood there in a daze, watching him mercilessly turn around and leave. The surging anger and boundless despair were like a large hand that was tightly gripping her throat, suffocating her. Her entire body was shrouded in a dark aura, and her eyes were burning with raging flames. She madly hugged him, her slender fingers gripping his arm like iron pliers. She screamed in a shrill voice, I'm not breaking up with you. I'm not breaking up with you no matter what. Jiang Tianhao, how could you do this to me? Let go. Jiang Tianhao suddenly pushed her away. Ah! Yi Zisu was wearing 10-centimeter high heels, so her body naturally leaned back when he pushed her. Jiang Tianhao turned sideways to face her. When he saw her fall to the ground, his eyes narrowed and his fingers clenched tightly. He didn't reach out to help her, but let her fall to the ground. With a thump, Yi Zisu fell to the ground. Her abdomen suddenly hurt, and she felt a warm current gushing out from her lower body. Her face was pale as she grabbed Jiang Tianhao's trousers in horror. She was so scared that she cried out, It hurts. Tianhao, the child, I beg you. Please save our child. Jiang Tianhao stood motionless in front of her, looking down at her face. She cried until her face turned pale, and she was in so much pain that her face turned pale. She kept pleading with him, and a hint of tenderness appeared in his eyes. He bent down and caressed her delicate skin. He whispered, "Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to the child." "Tianhao, I'm so scared." Bright red blood flowed down her legs, dyeing her white dress red. She leaned into Jiang Tianhao's arms, and her whole body trembled in pain. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Jiang Tianhao leaned her head against his chest. He looked over her head at the blue sky, and his lips curved into a sly smile. This child shouldn't have existed in the first place. When the ambulance arrived, there was a pool of blood under Yi Zisu's body. It was a ghastly sight, and she was about to faint from the pain. When she was lifted onto the stretcher, she held tightly onto Jiang Tianhao's hand, refusing to let go. He comforted her softly and affectionately, perfectly playing the role of a caring boyfriend. The two nurses were extremely envious of Yi Zisu. The empty rooftop regained its silence. A graceful figure flashed out from the corner, and she sent the video to the person on the phone. A bright smile appeared on her pure and beautiful face, and she said cheerfully, "Dear, are you satisfied with my service? If you are, don't forget to give me a good review, dear." On the other end of the phone, Ji Yuqi was nestled in Shenzhe's arms, watching the entire show through the tablet. Her lips curved into a smile. "Dear, I'm very satisfied with your service. I'll give you a 5-star review, dear." "Thank you, dear. Next time, remember to look for me if there's such a good thing. That's all. I won't disturb you from flirting with Big Boss anymore. Bye-bye." Lin Shui, or more accurately Lan Shui, happily closed her flip phone. She put her hands in her jeans pockets, hummed a tune, and skipped down the stairs. Lan Shui was Zhe's eccentric second sister, and also Shenzhe's right-hand woman. She had an angelic face and a demonic heart. Her favorite task was to play all kinds of roles and deceive all kinds of men. She had a reasonable explanation for this strange hobby, and that was to use it as a way to find and test her future husband. After learning the truth, Ji Yuqi silently lit a candle for Lan Shui's future husband in her heart. When Lan Shui heard that Ji Yuqi needed to place a spy by Jiang Tianhao's side, she happily recommended herself. She disguised herself as a weak and harmless little white rabbit, and infiltrated the Eastern real estate company, paying close attention to his every move. Of course, as a qualified spy, Lan Shui was very professional. She seized every opportunity to destroy the relationship between Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zisu. Ji Yuqi was in charge of digging a hole, and she was in charge of burying the person. The two of them cooperated seamlessly. Ji Yuqi put the deer penis into the chicken soup. She was in charge of taking photos of Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zisu having sex in the car, and then posted them on the company's forum. She also intercepted the report letter sent by Yi Zisu. When Ji Yuqi reminded her that the time was right, she then handed the report letter to the company. She acted in front of Jiang Tianhao and successfully drove a wedge between the two of them, shattering the last trace of feelings Jiang Tianhao had for Yi Zisu. Walking out of the Eastern real estate company, Lan Shui looked back at the building. She pushed the sunglasses on the bridge of her nose, and her lips curved into a wicked smile. Goodbye, Jiang Tianhao. From now on, Lin Shui would no longer be found in this world. The tablet in her hand finally stopped at the pool of blood. The smile on Ji Yuqi's lips froze as she stared at the pool of blood with a complicated look in her eyes. She wasn't a good person, but she wouldn't go so far as to lay her hands on a child. She had thought that her plan was foolproof. Jiang Tianhao would be forced into marriage by Yi Zisu, and then the two of them would hate each other and torture each other. But she didn't expect that Jiang Tianhao would be so cruel. He deliberately pushed Yi Zisu to the ground. The high-definition image clearly showed Jiang Tianhao's demonic sneer. Ji Yuqi suddenly realized that Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zisu didn't really love each other. Jiang Tianhao truly loved himself. He was selfish to the core, and he would do anything for greed. She couldn't help but guess that in her previous life, even if she was killed and Yi Zisu married Jiang Tianhao, Yi Zisu wouldn't be happy for long. Because at that time, Jiang Tianhao was in a high position and wouldn't allow himself to have an illegitimate son. Beauty novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 863. Ji Yuqi curled her lips mockingly and said softly, Asha, do you know what's the easiest thing to cheat in this world? Shinja hugged her tightly and whispered, feelings. She nodded with a bleak expression. Yes, feelings. In her past life, she and Yi Zissou were losers, and only Jiang Tianhao was the winner. She lowered her eyes slightly and stared at the pool of blood on the screen. She felt a little depressed. No matter what, this child had indirectly died in her hands. Don't look at it anymore. They asked for it. A large hand took away the tablet in her arms, and the bloody screen disappeared. Shinja naturally pulled her into his arms and rubbed his chin against her soft hair. His deep voice was like a high-quality musical instrument. Only a child born with the love of his parents will be happy. Otherwise, it would be better not to be born in the first place. Ji Yuqi's lips curved. This man, he must be trying to comfort her. In her warmth, she couldn't help but think of his parents, and her heart ached. She turned around and hugged him tightly. Her lips gently rubbed against his cheek, and a warm atmosphere spread in the room. Hugging the person she loved, even if there were no words, their hearts were close. Yi Zissou had a miscarriage. In the end, she couldn't save the 1-month-old child. She threw herself into Jiang Tianhao's arms and cried sadly. Jiang Tianhao patted her back and said with a voice full of guilt, I'm sorry, Zissou. It's all my fault. If it wasn't for me, the child wouldn't have. No, Tianhao, I don't blame you. It's just that we weren't fated to be with the child. Yi Zissou's face was full of tears, and her heart was full of holes. It was the first time in their relationship that she hated this man. She hated him for being so heartless and for killing their child with his own hands. Zissou, the more you act like this, the more upset I feel. Hit me, scold me. Jiang Tianhao took her hand and slapped it on his face. Yi Zissou quickly clenched her fists to prevent herself from hurting him. She sobbed, No. If I hurt you, I'll be the one feeling heartache. Since it's already like this, let's just let it go, Zissou. Jiang Tianhao's eyes were slightly red as he looked at her, touched. When Ji Yuqi followed her family into the ward, she saw this scene and was shocked. These two people were acting in a drama, one more disgusting than the other. She walked leisurely at the back, waiting to watch a good show. Sure enough, Chen Tingfang rushed to Jiang Tianhao and dragged Jiang Tianhao up at lightning speed. She raised her arm high and slapped him across the face. She roared like a fire-breathing dragon. Jiang Tianhao, I handed my precious daughter to you. And this is how you treat her? What did she do wrong to you? Oh, she really did wrong to him in every way. Ji Yuqi leaned against the wall and cursed silently in her heart. Jiang Tianhao was really a good man who knew when to yield, and when not to. After being slapped, he still maintained a humble expression and said sincerely, It's all my fault. I've let Zissou down. Auntie, as long as it makes you feel better, you can hit or scold me as you wish. Ji Yuqi raised her eyebrows playfully. She had learned something new. This was what it meant when someone slapped you on the left side of your face, and you still wanted her to slap you on the right side. How despicable. When Chen Tingfang heard this, she immediately raised her arm, intending to give him another slap. Before her hand landed, it was caught by Ji Bowen. He said with a sullen face, Tingfang, stop fooling around. Even if you teach him a lesson now, it won't solve anything. Chen Tingfang lowered her arm bitterly. Ji Bowen stared coldly at Jiang Tianhao and went straight to the point. Jiang Tianhao, Zissou lost her child because of you. What do you plan to do? Jiang Tianhao secretly clenched his fists. When he faced Ji Bowen, hatred raged in his chest, but the time wasn't right, so he couldn't reveal it. The expression on his handsome face was sincere as he said solemnly, Uncle Ji, I originally planned to make some achievements before marrying Zissou. Now that something like this has happened, I can't let her wait any longer. If Zissou doesn't mind living a hard life with me, I want to marry her as soon as possible. Yi Zissou couldn't believe it. She suddenly looked up at him. He was willing to marry her. The hatred in her heart quickly dissipated. She thought that perhaps she had misunderstood him. He still loved her, and the matter with the child was just an accident. Ji Yuqi sneered in her heart. She had really underestimated Jiang Tianhao's scheming. He clearly hated Yi Zhisu so much, but he was still willing to marry her for his own benefit. He proposed to marry Yi Zhisu so readily and played the role of a responsible man, because he knew her father's personality. Her father had always had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Even if he didn't like Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zhisu, he still couldn't bear to let them live a hard life. Sure enough, after careful consideration, Ji Bowen slowly said, "If your work outside is not successful, you can come to Ji Group. As long as you treat Zhisu well, I won't treat you unfairly." A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Everyone's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Chen Tingfang originally didn't want her daughter to marry Jiang Tianhao, but the matter had already been settled. The only thing she could do was to fight for more benefits for her daughter. She lowered her eyes slightly as she thought about her plan. Jiang Tianhao was just as Ji Yuqi expected. His move could be said to be cutting off all means of retreat. He was also very guilty. Fortunately, when Ji Bowen made this promise, his anxious heart relaxed. He solemnly swore, "Uncle Ji, don't worry. I will definitely treat Zhisu well. I won't let her suffer any more grievances." Ji Bowen nodded in satisfaction. "Your wedding will be set for next month. Zhisu, don't go to school for the next few days. Take a leave of absence and rest well at home. Tingfang, I'll leave the wedding to you. You must make sure that Zhisu's wedding is grand." Chen Tingfang hurriedly agreed. Yi Zhisu's eyes reddened slightly. She said gratefully, "Thank you, Uncle Ji." Ji Bowen's expression became much gentler. He nodded. "Rest well. Don't let your thoughts run wild." After speaking, he turned his gaze to Jiang Tianhao. "Tianhao, after you and Zhisu get married, come work at the Ji Corporation." If the two of them got married while he was still working at an outside company, it wouldn't be good if word got out. "Yes. Thank you, Uncle Ji." Jiang Tianhao's performance was neither servile nor overbearing. Ji Bowen was slightly satisfied. There were still matters to attend to at the company. Ji Bowen only sat for a while before hurrying to the company. Ji Yuqi used the excuse that she had school to attend and left immediately. After she left, Chen Tingfang gave her bodyguard, Xie Bing, a look indicating for him to follow her. Xie Bing was helpless. His mission was to protect Chen Tingfang's safety. He wasn't to interfere in the fight between the rich and powerful. However, he couldn't stop Chen Tingfang from using Lu Jianfeng's kindness to him. He could only follow her instructions and follow Ji Yuqi. Chen Tingfang reprimanded Jiang Tianhao in front of Yi Zhisu. Jiang Tianhao continued to smile apologetically while Yi Zhisu spoke up for him. After the commotion, Chen Tingfang sighed and said, "I don't want to say anything else. Tianhao, Zhisu treats you wholeheartedly. You can't let her down. Otherwise, I won't let you off." Jiang Tianhao's tone was sincere. "Auntie, please don't worry. I definitely won't let Zhisu down. I'll believe you for the time being. You stay here with Zhisu. I'll go back and prepare for the wedding." Chen Tingfang had already planned it out. She had to make Ji Bowen pay for a house and a car for Yi Zhisu and her husband. It would be best if the house was a villa with a garden and a swimming pool. Of course, she had to tell the public that Jiang Tianhao bought it himself. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing for the second miss of the Ji family to marry a poor boy. However, she didn't think that Jiang Tianhao, who had no family background and had just graduated from university, couldn't afford a villa. No one would believe her if she said it. It would just be a joke. Of course, Ji Bowen wouldn't let her do as she pleased. Villa? Sorry, no. However, he didn't treat them unfairly. He bought a high-end apartment in a luxurious area for them as their wedding home. He also bought a BMW for Jiang Tianhao. As for the rest, if she wanted it, she had to earn it herself. As soon as the news of their marriage spread, it caused a stir in the upper-class circle. Some gossipy ladies guessed that Yi Zhisu was pregnant before marriage, and was in a hurry to hold a wedding to cover up her embarrassment. Coincidentally, there was a rumor that Yi Zhisu was not only pregnant, but also had a miscarriage because of Jiang Tianhao. Jiang Tianhao married her, because of his responsibility. Everyone sighed again, and used the two of them as negative examples to teach their own children. The night before the wedding, Ji Yuqi suddenly received a call from Jiang Tianhao. He was silent for a long time before he said in a hoarse voice, "Yuqi, I'm sorry. I've let you down." Ji Yuqi sneered. "Let you down? Oh no, I've never had feelings for you. Senior." Her sobbing voice traveled to Jiang Tianhao's ears. He gripped the phone painfully and said in a low voice, "Yuqi, I'm sorry." Ji Yuqi laughed miserably. Her laughter sounded so sad. She said, "I don't blame you. I can only blame ourselves for not being fated to be together. Senior, treat Zissou well in the future. Don't let her get hurt again." Jiang Tianhao was silent for a long time. His voice was as dry as an unpolished stone. "Yuqi, can you wait for me?" Ji Yuqi wished she could drag out the man on the other end of the line and give him a good beating. He kept breaking the record for shamelessness, eating what was in his bowl and thinking about what was in his pot. Did he really think that he was a Casanova and that every woman had to listen to him obediently? However, since there were scumbags, there were bound to be B*cheese. In her previous life, Yi Zissou had Gigai as the woman behind him. In the end, she succeeded as a mistress. Ji Yuqi was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She gritted her teeth for a long time and slowly suppressed her anger. She said calmly, "Senior, I won't wait for you. I wish you and Zissou happiness." She emphasized the word happiness. Happiness? It would be a wonder if she could be happy. Before he could reply, she had already hung up the phone. Jiang Tianhao listened to the beeping sound from the phone, and his heart felt empty. It was as if he had lost the most important thing to him. He stood there in a daze for a long time. He closed his eyes and slowly opened them again. His gaze was cold. As long as he took back Ji Group, would he be afraid that he wouldn't be able to take back Ji Yuqi's heart? Just you wait, Yuqi. You're still my woman. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 864. Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zissou's wedding finally took place amidst a sea of congratulatory messages. Under the blue sky and white clouds, their wedding was grand and romantic on a lush green lawn. The moment the bride and groom kissed, Ji Yuqi couldn't help but think of herself in the past. She had also rushed to Jiang Tianhao's embrace with a blissful smile on her face, but what awaited her was betrayal and destruction. What about Yi Zissou? What awaited her? After the wedding, Jiang Tianhao would bring his mother to the city. His mother was an authentic farmer and was more conservative in her thinking. In her previous life, she despised Yuqi for not knowing how to do anything and even despised her for embarrassing her son. Every day, she would scold or treat her coldly. She would often complain to her son and badmouth her. Yuqi racked her brains but still couldn't please her mother. In the future, Yi Zissou would have to face all these troubles. Let Yi Zissou and Jiang Tianhao, mother and son, torture each other. Ji Yuqi's lips curled into a smile. Her watery eyes were as cold as ever. A tall figure approached her. Suddenly, a hand appeared on her waist. She turned to look at the approaching person. Her eyes were tinged with warmth as she said softly, "I thought you wouldn't come." Shinja's hand on her waist tightened. As the two of them were standing in a secluded area, no one noticed their movements. He lowered his head naturally and kissed her cheek. In a low voice he said, "Of course I'm here for you." During this period, Ji Yuqi rarely met Shinja in order to avoid Xiebing's surveillance. Most of the time, the two of them contacted each other via video call. Shinja had long wanted to hug and kiss her like this. Ji Yuqi poked his chest with her finger and said in a displeased tone, "Stop fooling around. Be careful not to be discovered." "It's okay. Aze will keep watch in the dark." Shinja kissed her on the lips. After a while, he let go of her and hugged her. He muttered unhappily, "Xiebing should be dealt with. He's always between us. He's so annoying." Ji Yuqi patted his arm to comfort him. "Don't worry. Chen Tingfang asked Xiebing to spy on me, because she suspects that I have someone backing me up. I'll divert the trouble and let her misunderstand." Shinja frowned and looked at her. "Are you referring to Gu Fifan? Araja is so smart." Ji Yuqi tried her best to flatter him, so that the petty man wouldn't be jealous. She smiled and said, "Our hearts are connected, right? The Gu clan is very influential in Ing City, And Gu Fifan is very good at hiding his strength. Isn't it just right for him to be my backer? Shinja's frown deepened. Why go through so much trouble? Am I not as good as Gu Fifan? Jiyuchi hugged his arm and said gently, it's not suitable for our relationship to be made public yet. Moreover, I don't want you to attract Qin Tingfang's attention. Aja, you said that you won't interfere in my affairs. Are you going back on your word? She looked up at him and pouted. Her expression said, if you dare to say yes, I'll cry in front of you. Shinja's heart softened immediately. However, he still had to fight for his rights. He said with a straight face, you can divert the trouble, but you're not allowed to do any intimate actions. You're not allowed to hold hands. You're not allowed to touch his face. You must keep a distance of 3 steps away from him. 3 steps away. That was social distance. At most, they would be considered ordinary friends. How could they fool Xiebing's sharp eyes? Jiyuchi thought to herself. She puffed her cheeks and reluctantly said, oh. Shinja's slender fingers poked her puffed cheeks. If I find out that you've exceeded the safe distance, I'll punish you. His voice was pleasant to the ear, but it made her feel gloomy. She blushed when she thought of his so-called punishments in the past. The two of them kissed for a while before separating. They returned to the wedding venue one after the other. There were guests gathered there, and there was a lot of laughter. Jiyuchi walked to Lin Yushi's side and gently touched her shoulder. She chuckled and said, why are you here alone in a daze? Lin Yushi leaned close to her shoulder and teased in a low voice, I don't have a secret boyfriend to date. Of course I'm alone in a daze. Jiyuchi's face heated up. How did you find out? Lin Yushi glanced in a certain direction and said calmly, because you entered the venue one after the other. Others might not have noticed, but how could I not see it with my eagle eyes? Okay, you're good. Jiyuchi sighed from the bottom of her heart. Fortunately, Lin Yushi was her friend and not her enemy. What are the two of you talking about? You look so happy. Gu Fifan had unknowingly walked to their side. He was dressed in a white suit, which made his figure look tall and slender. Coupled with his elegant and noble behavior, he was simply a graceful Prince Charming. Jiyuchi narrowed her eyes slightly and smiled. It's just a chat between girls. Mr. Gu, you've been very popular recently. There are headlines about you on the entertainment page every day. Gu Fifan raised his eyebrows. His pair of exquisite foxy eyes were overflowing with light. He combed the hair in front of his forehead handsomely and said with a sad face, Chi-Chi, you know that a handsome, talented and good-looking young master like me has many women who have taken the initiative to send themselves to me, but I haven't even touched a finger of theirs. Those media are used to making groundless accusations, and always write some sentimental love stories, based on their imagination. You're so smart, you definitely won't misunderstand, okay? Jiyuchi shrugged and smiled teasingly. So the carnivorous man has begun to transform into a herbivorous man. It's really an eye-opener for me. Mr. Gu, do your fans know that you're so pure and simple? Their hearts are about to shatter into pieces. Gu Fifan took a step forward and stared at her jade-like cheeks with a burning gaze. That can't be helped. Who asked me to fall in love with you now? In my eyes, other women are just decorations. Jiyuchi couldn't stand it and shook her shoulders. She took the opportunity to take 2 steps back and distance herself from him. Lin Yushi also looked like she was struck by lightning. She waved her hand and said, Cousin, I beg you. Yuchi and I are both pure girls. We really can't stand your sweet words. Gu Fifan's handsome face darkened, and he glared at her. Are you my biological cousin? Why are you trying to undermine me? Lin Yushi looked surprised. Could it be that you're not my aunt's biological child? Otherwise, how could you not be my biological cousin? Yushi, well done. Jiyuchi couldn't help but burst out laughing. She didn't expect that she would be so good at pranking people, even though she looked cold and aloof. This girl was so mischievous. Gu Fifan's eyebrows twitched, and he gritted his teeth. His eyes shot daggers at Jiyuchi, who didn't mind watching a good show, and Lin Yushi, who had an innocent look on her face. He snorted and said, You two brats only know how to make fun of me with words. That's fine too. If you have any trouble in the future, Don't come looking for me again. Who asked me to not be familiar with you too? Lin Yushi's innocent face changed, and she pounced on him obsequiously. She said cheerfully, "Ah, cousin, my biological cousin, I want to go to England in a few days. You must help me persuade my mother." Gu Fifan raised his chin arrogantly. "Brat, now you know to call me your biological cousin. When your cousin was chasing his girlfriend, why didn't you know to help him?" Lin Yushi's mouth twitched. She really wanted to tell her cousin that Yuchi was already taken. Ji Yuchi's face darkened. She expressed that she didn't hear anything and quickly took 2 steps back. She was even further away from Gu Fifan. She subconsciously looked in Shenjia's direction and saw admiration in his eyes. That was close. Fortunately, she maintained a distance of more than 3 steps. She realized that she was becoming more and more like a strict husband. Ba, what husband? They hadn't even started dating yet. Her mind was running wild. The 2 cousins were still bickering when Gu Fifan suddenly stopped. He said to Ji Yuchi, who was in a daze, "Chi-Chi, let's have dinner together this weekend." Ji Yuchi replied with an ah in confusion. She was obviously still in a daze. "I said let's have dinner together this weekend." Gu Fifan was afraid that she would reject him, so he added, "Yushi will come with us too, right Yushi?" At an angle that Ji Yuchi couldn't see, Gu Fifan winked at Lin Yushi. Lin Yushi was speechless. She couldn't keep up with her cousin's jumping thoughts. He was still bickering with her a second ago, and the next second, he was suddenly flirting with girls. Looking at his pleading and threatening eyes, Lin Yushi couldn't say no. But on the other side was her best friend, and she couldn't betray her. Just when she was in a dilemma, Ji Yuchi smiled and joked. "Okay, you are now the most popular rising star in Ing City. Yushi and I should also celebrate for you." Lin Yushi smiled at her gratefully. Her lips curved and she responded with a gentle smile, but her heart was a little sad. "Gu Fifan, please forgive me for my selfishness. I only wanted to protect Shenjia, so I drew Chen Tingfang's attention to you." The promised dinner for 3 turned into a date for 2 people. According to Gu Fifan, Lin Yushi had a bad cold and couldn't go out, so she missed the appointment. Ji Yuchi received a call from Yuchi when she was in the bathroom. She kept apologizing, saying that she had to stay at home because of her cousin's threats and promises. In the end, she sighed and said, "Yuchi, I can see that my cousin really likes you. Sigh, he can only blame himself for waking up too late. You are already taken." Ji Yuchi looked at herself in the mirror and said softly, "I'm sorry." She didn't know if she was talking to Lin Yushi or Gu Fifan. "Silly, it's not your fault. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Although it's not very nice of my cousin to do this, you should pretend that you don't know anything and have a good meal with him. In the future, I won't get involved in your affairs anymore. It makes me feel like I betrayed you, and I feel terrible." Ji Yuchi felt depressed. In fact, she should be the one feeling guilty. She wanted to pretend to be close to Gu Fifan, but Yushi just happened to create an opportunity for her. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 865. This was a high-class Western restaurant located on the top floor of the building, overlooking the entire city. When Ji Yuchi returned from the washroom and stepped into the main hall, she heard a beautiful melody. A handsome man in a white suit sat next to the piano in the middle of the hall. His slender fingers danced merrily on the piano keys, and the light and mellow music flowed in the air like a gurgling stream. Gu Fifan raised his head, and his picturesque eyebrows were smiling. His sexy thin lips parted as he sang an Italian love song. His mellow and magnetic voice was like wine that had been stored in the cellar for many years, fragrant and intoxicating. His deep and charming eyes were fixed on her, and his gentle and affectionate gaze was glued to her body. He was so focused and affectionate, as if she was the only one in the world. He gently poured out his love for her. Because of his bold actions, she felt uncomfortable all over. But because Xiebing was very likely to be lurking here, she did not show it. Instead, she wore a smile and quietly met Gu Fifan's gaze. This scene did fall into Xiebing's eyes. After a simple disguise, he sat in a corner near the wall. He obeyed Chen Tingfang's orders to follow Ji Yuchi, but he did not find out which man she was in close contact with. He thought that he would return empty-handed, but he did not expect her to reveal her foxtail today and go on a date with the eldest young master of the Gu family. This was a huge discovery. In addition, the narrow-minded Shenja also saw this scene. Although he agreed with Ji Yuqi's plan, he did not say that he would not supervise her date with Gu Fifan. Shenja sat near the window, and his malicious eyes stared coldly at Gu Fifan, who was playing the piano in the middle of the restaurant. His well-defined fingers clenched tightly, and the veins on the back of his hand throbbed. He could not wait to throw the man who was coveting his baby out of the window. Even the couple sitting at the table next to him could feel the tyrannical aura he was emitting. The girl whispered in her boyfriend's ear, "Look at the handsome guy at the next table. He's staring at the handsome guy who's singing. Could it be that he's jealous?" The boy whispered, "I think so too." Both of them like the girl standing at the door. The girl shook her head. "No, I think the two handsome guys are a couple." But the handsome guy playing the piano could not bear the pressure from his family and society. He decided to abandon the same-sex couple and fall in love with the girl. So the handsome guy at the next table is jealous. The boy wiped his sweat. Earth's people could no longer stop the fujoshi. Ji Yuqi was completely unaware that she had already become a despicable mistress who stole someone else's lover. After the initial awkwardness, she quickly adjusted her state of mind, ignored the burning gazes of the crowd, and gracefully returned to her seat. At the end of the song, there was a warm applause. Gu Fifan closed the piano and stood up gracefully. He looked at Ji Yuqi affectionately from a few tables away. His lips were slightly open, as if he wanted to say something. Ji Yuqi's heart tightened, and she spoke first with a bright smile. "Thank you for the gift. I like it very much. But if you don't come down, the enthusiastic audience will ask you to play another song. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen?" After saying that, she winked playfully. Her lively and cute appearance immediately won the favor of most people. The enthusiastic audience joked and said loudly, "The little girl is right. Young man, sing another song." A young man echoed. After such a commotion, Gu Fifan could not confess anymore. His eyes darkened. How could he not see that Yuqi did not want him to use this opportunity to confess? So she spoke before he spoke to liven up the atmosphere. Of course, Shenja also saw it, so his mood was a little better, and his hostility was restrained a little. Xiebing did not know the inside story, so he did not suspect so much. However, he was cautious and would not make a simple judgment. So he followed Ji Yuqi for a week and found that in addition to her close relationship with Gu Fifan, she also had a close relationship with Tang Feng. But there was a clear difference between the two. So when he reported to Chen Tingfang, he analyzed. When Miss faced Tang Feng, she was more passive. I felt that she did not want to get along with Tang Feng. But when facing Gu Fifan, she was very natural. The two of them got along very casually, more like a couple. Chen Tingfang frowned and pondered. She carefully recalled the man she had seen dating Ji Yuqi near the World Trade Center. Although it was only a side profile, she remembered that the man was very aristocratic. He was a kind of gentle and affectionate man, unlike Tang Feng's arrogant and awe-inspiring personality. Moreover, if Tang Feng was Ji Yuqi's backer, Tang Hejia, that old man, would have come to her door and asked Ji Bowen to divorce her. How could he be quiet and not say a word? To sum up, Chen Tingfang analyzed that Ji Yuqi was backed by Gu Fifan. Otherwise, it was impossible for a weak woman like her to escape from her trap again and again. During these days, Yi Zixu and Jiang Tianhao went abroad for their honeymoon. Chen Tingfang had nothing to do. In addition, when she was preparing for the wedding, she took the opportunity to embezzle a sum of money. So, she had the leisure to think about how to kill Ji Yuqi and her brother. Poison? Kidnap? Car accident? Gangsters fight? Shoot? Throw bombs directly? No, each one was more difficult than the other, and they were too eye-catching and easy to be exposed. If Gu Fifan stopped her again, she might go for wool and come home shorn, and lose herself again. Chen Tingfang was distressed. After thinking about it, she gave up the idea of killing them directly. She planned to dig out Ji Yuqi's backer first. Gu Fifan was infatuated with Ji Yuqi because of her face. If her face was ruined, a playboy like Gu Fifan would kick her away. Chen Tingfang's eyes were cold. After thinking for a long time, her lips curved into a cold smile. She had a detailed plan in her heart. In the afternoon, Ji Yuqi just came out of the swimming pool with a towel draped over her body. The maid came over with a phone. "Miss, you have a call for you. It's from Mr. Gu." Ji Yuqi said thank you and took the phone. She smiled and said, "Young Master Gu, why are you so free?" "After a meeting with a group of old men, I suddenly missed you. I called your cell phone but you didn't answer. I wanted to try my luck and called your home. I didn't expect you to really be at home." Gu Fifan's voice was languid with a faint smile. It sounded gentle and affectionate. "You're so annoying. Don't be so glib." Ji Yuqi smiled at Yan Yan. She waved her hand and dismissed the maid. She lay leisurely on the recliner and wiped the water droplets on her head. She lowered her voice and said, "Fifan, don't call my home in the future. Let's hang up first. I'll call you back when I'm back in my room." Chen Tingfang stood on the balcony on the second floor and watched Ji Yuqi walk towards the living room while drying her hair. Behind her stood the maid who passed Ji Yuqi the phone. She did not turn her head and asked indifferently, "Who called?" The maid replied respectfully, "He said his surname is Gu. Miss seems to be very familiar with him. Miss also said that Mr. Gu should not call home in the future. She said that she would call him back when she was back in her room." Chen Tingfang's eyes flashed, and her lips curled into a cold smile. Ji Yuqi still wanted to hide her true intentions, but unfortunately, she had accidentally exposed herself. Gu Fifan must have called her to ask her out again. It was the best time to make a move. Ji Yuqi changed her clothes and called Gu Fifan back. His female secretary reminded him that he was attending a department meeting. Ji Yuqi smiled and said, "President Gu, I won't disturb you since you're so busy. Let's talk again when you have time. It's not an important meeting. Just postpone it for 10 minutes. Gu Fifan waved his hand and gestured for the secretary to do as he said. He then laughed in a low voice and said, "It's rare for you to take the initiative to call me. Even if it's an important matter, I have to postpone it." "Hey, President Gu, won't your employees dislike you for your irresponsible attitude?" Ji Yuqi could not help but complain. Gu Fifan laughed happily. "That can't be helped. In my eyes, my career is not as important as a beauty." Ji Yuqi joked, "President Gu, did you always chase girls like this in the past?" He paused and his voice suddenly became low. "No, you're the only one." Ji Yuqi's smile froze on her face. She suddenly felt very guilty. Because of her selfishness, she had dragged Gu Fifan into this mess. Even if she was sure that Chen Tingfang would not harm Gu Fifan, it could not change the fact that she had used him. It was very despicable to take advantage of other people's feelings. How was she different from Jiang Tianhao? Her heart was in a mess, and she sounded a little despondent. "I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye." Yuqi. Gu Fifan had just called her name when the phone beeped. He frowned slightly, not knowing why she had suddenly become so strange. Gu Fifan called her cell phone, but no one answered. He texted her. "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Ji Yuqi looked at the text, and her mind was in a mess. She could not help but think of all the things that had happened in her previous life. Strictly speaking, Gu Fifan was not a scumbag. He was just a playboy. In her previous life, he had hurt her because he had been schemed against. In this life, he had not done anything to hurt her. In fact, he had even helped her a lot. She could not make use of him like an enemy. She had not thought of how to reply when he sent another text. "Did my words bother you?" She gritted her teeth and wrote, "Actually, I've been making use of you all this time." Gu Fifan was silent for about a minute. He raised the corners of his lips bitterly and replied, "I know." Those 3 words were like a flame that burned Ji Yuqi's eyes. She held her cell phone tightly, and there was an indescribable feeling in her heart. Beep, beep. Another text came. He said, "I don't mind being used by you. Maybe I owed you in my previous life. Add. Xinwu 799. Chapter 866. Ji Yuqi felt a lump in her throat. His words made her want to cry. No matter how cold and powerful she had become in this life, the sadness from her previous life was still a nightmare that she could not get rid of. She closed her eyes and forced back the tears in her eyes. She replied slowly, "No, we are even. We are even. You don't owe me and I don't owe you." Gu Fifan held his phone tightly and stared at the line of words on the screen. He was in a daze. The secretary knocked on the office door. "President Gu, you should go to the meeting room." "All right, I got it." His voice was hoarse beyond recognition. "President Gu, are you all right?" The secretary, miss, blinked her eyes and expressed her concern. The rich and handsome man in front of her was single. She was young and beautiful, so she still had a chance. Gu Fifan suddenly raised his head and caught the passionate look in her eyes. He was very familiar with this look, but at the same time he hated it. His eyes became fierce and he said coldly, "From tomorrow onwards, you don't have to be my secretary anymore. Go find the HR manager and report to the logistics department." The secretary's eyes widened in shock and her beautiful face was full of disbelief. "President Gu." Gu Fifan raised his hand to stop her from continuing. He coldly brushed past her and walked towards the meeting room with steady steps. The secretary felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She did not come back to her senses for a long time and tears fell down her face. She was just concerned. What did she do wrong? Sob, sob, sob. The boss nowadays is so heartless and unreasonable. After Gu Fifan finished the meeting, Ji Yuqi's face was still lingering in his mind. She was cold, expressionless, smiling at him and angry. Her different expressions intertwined with each other, and it made his head hurt. He angrily punched the table, and his fingers quickly tapped on his phone. He sent a message to the familiar number. "We are not even. We will never be even. Ji Yuqi, you still owe me. I will make you my woman." Ji Yuqi lay on the sofa and stared blankly at the text message. She thought for a moment and replied, "It's not worth it. Don't waste your feelings on me. I won't like you." As soon as she sent the message, he called her. His deep voice was filled with suppressed anger. "Woman, what's wrong with me? Why do you dislike me so much?" Ji Yuqi pinched her eyebrows and said helplessly, "Gu Fifan, do you have to be so childish? It's not that you're not good. It's just that I don't have any feelings for you. I'm making things clear because I don't want you to misunderstand, and I don't want to hold you back. Gu Fifan, I only treat you as a friend." As soon as her voice fell, she heard a bang sound from the phone, as if something had been broken. After a long time, Gu Fifan's cold voice, which was very different from his usual, came through. "Okay, I'll be your friend." "As a friend? Don't you owe me an explanation?" "What explanation? Why are you acting so strange recently?" He sneered softly and said self-deprecatingly, "In the past you wouldn't agree to go on a date with me. I didn't want to think too much about it. Tell me, what do you want me to do for you?" Ji Yuqi didn't feel good in her heart. She sighed. "I'm sorry, I apologize for my behavior. I don't need an apology. I need an explanation." "I can't say. I'm sorry." Gu Fifan was so angry that he almost died. His heart felt as if it was pierced by a sharp sword, and it was so painful that it was bleeding. He gritted his teeth and roared, "I'm really King cheap. The women who love me can line up from here to East Street. I just had to fall in love with a heartless woman. I'm sorry." Other than these 3 words, she really didn't know what else to say. "Forget it. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't reject my date. I'm the one who's cheap. What does it have to do with you?" His voice sounded hoarse and lonely, which made Ji Yuqi feel very uncomfortable and guilty. However, there was no love. She had given all her love to Shenjia. The conversation ended unhappily. Ji Yuqi lay on the soft cushion. She felt very depressed and restlessly rolled around. She didn't know that there was another person who was also very depressed, and that was young Master Shen. Shenjia regretted being soft-hearted and listening to Yuqi's plan to let her get close to Gu Fifan. Every time they went on a date, he would secretly monitor them. Jealousy surged in his chest. He was already sullen enough that he couldn't see her during this period of time, but he still had to watch her smile at another man. It was simply cutting his heart with a knife. As a man, he couldn't protect his woman, and had to let her protect herself. This was simply a kind of humiliation. Shinja made up his mind. Even if Yuchi didn't like him interfering in her affairs, he would still interfere. He couldn't let her do whatever she wanted. This time, the date was at Mystery Park. Mystery Park was a large amusement park. There was a fountain in the leisure area. Sparkling water sprayed out from the statue of a goddess and gathered at the bottom of the fountain to form a lake. Many young couples threw coins into the pool to make a wish. There were also people taking photos as souvenirs. It was very lively. Yuchi wore jeans and a white long-sleeved shirt that was tied at her waist. She wore a sun hat on her head. Her casual outfit made her look even more youthful and beautiful. She carried a small backpack and stood beside the fountain, waiting for her date. From afar, a tall and straight figure walked towards her with steady steps. The man was wearing an expensive white casual outfit that outlined his tall and handsome figure. Brown sunglasses rested on the bridge of his straight nose, revealing his thin lips and thin, clean chin. Yuchi was slightly dazed. She had an illusion that she was looking at Shinja. This figure, this temperament, it was simply too similar. However, it couldn't be. She shook her head and threw this unreliable thought to the back of her mind. She quickly walked towards the man and smiled. "Fifin, you're here?" The man nodded elegantly. His thin lips were slightly pursed, but he didn't say anything. Yuchi didn't mind. She smiled and said, "I haven't been on a roller coaster in a long time. Let's go on a roller coaster." The man remained silent and reached out to hold her hand. Yuchi instinctively struggled, but the man held her hand even tighter. She coughed uncomfortably and moved closer to his ear. She whispered, "Liangyu, I asked you to pretend to be Gu Fifan for those people who are secretly watching us. You just have to fool them. There's no need to make it so realistic." The man turned to look at her. The huge sunglasses covered his face. His lips moved a few times. Yuchi thought he was going to say something, but she didn't expect him to purse his lips again. His lips and chin were becoming more and more like Shinja's. Yuchi blinked suspiciously. She reached out to take the sunglasses off his face, but he nimbly avoided her. His deep voice was like cold spring water. "Miss G, please have some self-respect." Yuchi's lips twitched. Who should have self-respect? He was the one who held her hand first. "Okay? Okay, I'll have some self-respect. Can you please let go of my hand?" If Shinja found out that another man had touched her hand, he would definitely be jealous. Liangyu spat out two words as if they were gold, acting. Yuchi was speechless. Fine, she had no choice but to beg this man to pretend to be Gu Fifan. He was addicted to it. "Let's go. We'll take the roller coaster." Liangyu held her hand and led her forward. The two of them sat on the roller coaster. The staff reminded Liangyu to take off his sunglasses to avoid danger. Before Liangyu could say anything, Yuchi hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, we won't be taking the roller coaster. I suddenly remembered that I have high blood pressure and can't take the roller coaster." If Liangyu took off his sunglasses, the people who were secretly watching him would realize that he wasn't Gu Fifan. Yuchi was annoyed by her own carelessness. The staff was helpless. Some passengers felt that they were being delayed and complained softly. Yuchi smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. I hope everyone has a good time." The roller coaster finally started moving. Seeing the train speeding along the winding track, the passengers screamed. Yuchi couldn't help but look envious. Liangyu turned to look at her and said in a deep voice, "Do you like it that much?" Yuchi's eyes dimmed and she said indifferently, "I've only been on the roller coaster once. It was when I was 13 years old. I was with my parents in Ahan. Our family of 4 was happy. I only found out later that the day before that day, my mother had a checkup and found out that she had cancer. She wanted to spend her last days with us siblings happily." Liangyu was silent for a moment and said slowly, "I'm very sorry." Yuchi smiled. "It's okay, Aja. Can you ride with me next time?" Liangyu's body stiffened. His thin lips twitched and he sounded a little uncomfortable. "You saw through me." Ji hugged his arm with a smile and sniffed him with her little nose. Her voice was soft. I'm not a fool. Do you think that you can fool me by changing your clothes, wearing a pair of sunglasses and imitating Liang Yu? When we sat together just now, I smelled a familiar scent on you. I only suspected it at first, but I'm sure now. The fake Liang Yu, who was the real Shenjia, hugged her waist naturally. He didn't care that they were in public and kissed her hair gently. He whispered, "It's not good for my wife to be too smart. I wanted to give you a surprise, but it's a pity." I'm your wife. Ji snorted. Surprise? It's more like a shock. You're so worried about me. I already said that I only treat Gu Fifan as a friend. Liang Yu too. He actually betrayed me. I'll teach him a lesson. Don't be too harsh on him. It's not easy for Liang Yu either. Shenjia shamelessly sent his subordinate to her to vent her anger. If Liang Yu hears this, he'll definitely cry. I've never seen such an unkind boss like you. Ji poked his chest rudely. Shenjia's lips curved. Even though his sunglasses covered his eyes, Ji could feel that he was looking at her affectionately. Her cheeks couldn't help but heat up and she secretly held his hand. Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.